Hello. 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 Hello.
I'm getting there. I'm almost there. Just give me a minute. Yeah, excuse me. And then ding dong and over to this screen. Hang on. That's not the correct. Come on, camera. There we go. Hi everyone. Welcome. Happy Saturday. Jason, my moderator, was in the chat first, and we got a new person named Lightstrife20. Welcome. Hi. Hopefully this doesn't alarm you to a crazy degree. I am a big zebra. I like being a big zebra because it's funny. And plus I had like some very strange sense of, oh yeah, if I'm a Bara, that will certainly like attract the ladies in the fandom. It does not attract the ladies in the fandom. muscular dudes do not attract ladies. I had to learn this and go, oh man, that is not exactly how it works. So yeah. You watched Unnamed, Nothing is Strange? Excellent! Oh, finger. Excellent. You're totally fine with big boobies then. I like big boobies. Giga Shake and they are unhinged. I have not watched a Giga Shake stream yet. I have only seen Unnamed, and normally I go, like, whenever it comes to streamers, I always go for, like, bite sizes at random intervals. It's never, like, a guarantee of, you know, going for one of their streams for, like, the full-on, like, 3+ hours or something or rather.
Check out my pecs, little man!
So, yeah. So, alrighty. Did I mention everywhere that I need to mention everywhere that I am online and I am streaming? I think I have. Alright. Ding, move that there, grab this, move that there. Alrighty then. So, big news. Next Saturday, actually, I can get, let me get the assets. Next Saturday is going to be a different stream. I'm not going to be going off in the evening. I'm going to be going off in the morning for Australia. So next Saturday is a, ding ding, look at this. Bam! I'm doing a charity stream. I haven't done one of these before. The only time I ever done like a stream that's like, oh, let's try and get more people putting like doing some things to the stream rather than just watching me play was like my subathon like a year or two ago. And that one I didn't do too well with, and trying to, like, you know, curtail people for incentives for subathons and what have you. So this one is a lot smaller of a goal. You may be wondering what the fuck Stack Up is. Stack Up is a it's a non-government charity program. It was organized back in 2015, I want to say. I won't give you like the full details, but essentially this was normally about like mental health and suicide prevention for, at first it was US armed veterans, or sorry, not armed, but US Army, Navy, Air Force veterans and what have you, and has now extended towards like NATO aligned countries as well. So it could be, you know, someone from the UK, from Canada, from Australia, all those different kinds of places. And the way they normally do these kinds of things is the armed forces is correct. Thank you. So the way they go about this is they will normally either organize for deployment of like, you know, video games, board games, or even card games to veterans or existing deployed units, which is actually pretty interesting. They've also put together a 24/7 mental health hotline in the Discord, because they know, like, there's a lot of people when they usually do their video game communication, they're also going to be on Discord. Something called the Phalanx. There's a lot of things that they've done. I should probably have a better job in like knowing what it is they do and what it is, or have like just a whole set of scripts on the right side, but I don't yet, because when they first approached me back in October, I was like, oh, that sounds like a brilliant idea. I'm going to be going on holiday shortly, but I'll get to this when I come back. I come back, it's almost November. I have to worry about Melbourne Cup, and this weekend was already Remembrance Day, or basically a very important day. Remembrance Day. 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month on the minute of silence. So I could not plan for this thing at that time correctly. I know there's a lot of people who've probably done this charity, or this particular charity organization, doing a charity stream today or yesterday or the next day. I'm not in that group. I am going off next week. So because next Friday is World Peace Day, I feel like that one's a nicely appropriate one for, you know, being able to provide video games and some positive mental health towards our troops and our veterans. It's not like there's an unarmed force, but that's beside the point. There could be an unarmed force. They could be just a whole slew of monks who like went through like in different Buddhist temples and Tibet and shit, and they're like Jackie Chan, where they don't carry guns on them. Instead, what they do is they're just like dropping out of the sky with like only a parachute. They run into the building, and any armed troops they go up against, they just use improvised weapons, throwing chairs and tables and beds and doing all kinds of kung fu. It could happen. Also, hi there, little Incineroar. Of course, you wanted to go look at my cake. But yeah, so next Saturday is a charity stream. I'm hoping, like, it's a like I've seen some people do these before, and they normally have like, oh, for $20 I'll do this, and $50 I'll do that. I watch a lot of artist streams, so you're in the future, right? It's only 2 a.m. Oh, I'm in Australia. It is 10 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, so it's currently 6 p.m. It's currently 6 p.m. for me's on a Saturday. I am very far ahead of a lot of Americans, so, and that's not really the point. Any whoosies, we have a thing to do. Actually, I have a thing to do. I don't know if you guys have a thing to do. Hit this button. Pause this music. God damn it, little Incineroar. Why do you have to steal my search so soon to the stream? I barely was able to get across that I was, like, doing a donation thingamadiggy, next weekend. God, oh, you can't receive any more company seals. What about this one? There we go. Alright. So, we've done all that. And once again, Incineroar is wanting my cake, despite the fact he stole my shirt. He could have done the himbo cam for all he wanted. Yes, yes. You're close to going to bed. No, that's fair. I stream at a very strange hour for... Han? Come on, don't be doing some funky nonsense to me. I stream at like a pretty funky hour for a lot of Americans because of streaming in my evening. And I don't have a lot of Australians in my chat, like... Code and Jason are Aussies. I don't know if there's any other Aussies in my chat. I'm not popular with the Australians. Maybe it's because I'm autistic and I don't communicate with them. Just all of Australia is just like, who the fuck is this guy? All right, I don't need that. I need to go to this mission here. 605 Crystarium. Okay, that's not expensive. Hang on. But I need to do all of the... Alright, augmented something or others. Thank you. So, yeah. Yeah, it's... Alright, so... Ding, ding. Alrighty, so that's all that. Desynthesis. Alright, let's start from... Alright, I'm gonna get rid of... What the hell? That requires alchemy? Okay, weird. Oh, actually, I know what I need to do. I need to go into the... I need to go into, like, the inn, my private inn room, and deposit some items. Retire to the inn room. Alright, so, in the glamour chest, I need to put in this Lux thing. Do I already have a true icebreaker in here? Yes, already have a true icebreaker in here. Thunderclap, two-handed something or rather. Gladiator thing, Ifrit's battle... Oh, wait, Wait, I already have Ifrit's battle axe in here, don't I? Yep, I already have Ifrit's battle axe in there. I've already got those. Garuda's tail, so none of those. Cookie for that boy! Hey, it's been a while, boy! How's it going? You doing alright? It has been a hot fucking minute since last I've seen you in my stream. I hope you're doing alright. How are things? Ding. Gentlemen's thingamadoogs. Hi. But don't... Alright, that should be everything. And then... Summoning Bell. The adorable Boyton, I need to give you some things. View your gear. Let's have a look. So... Alright, so that's a level 70 with 300. That's 370. That's level 70. Let's see. 303. Alright, so you're fine there. All that shit is level 70 as well. That's level 65. Let's see. 59, 24, 50... I'm still using that deep gold thingamadiggies. Alright, that looks to be as good as I can get ya. Alright. Moving on. Now we go into the main quest thing. You're super eepy? Fair enough. I will try and not be the absolutely disruptive zebra that I normally am. Although that's probably not true. I'm still probably going to be disruptive as fuck. Like, look at me. I'm just tits out. It's out talking to chat and having very little understanding of how I'm supposed to support all this energy. I have so many of these, like, role quests I'm going to need to do at one point as well. If I can navigate myself. So, let's see. So, we've got the man with many scars, nuts for you, a job well done, and then this level 72 thing. So, we've got a lot of our work cut out for us. Swap over to the Gunbreaker, because that is the class we're meant to be using. Yeah, this is the one we want. Davy boy! The nuts for you is just the hunting you believe. So, if I complete the nuts for you, then that's just a case of, congratulations, you can now do more hunting. Because if that's the case... Ooh, hello, you. Triple Triad Challenge, let's give it a try. Ascension, increases rank, swap with one. Alright. Let's go with this. I think this is my best deck. It might not be my best. Okay, so he's got a 5, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 1, 3. Alright, so. Let's go. Let's get you out of... There we go. Throw you up there. You'll no doubt get me from here. That's fine. But then that's a coup d'etat. How did I get you? You're a piece of shit. Alright. Throw you there. You're there. That's fine. Because then I go bam. Unlikely you're going to have a 9. Ooh, nice try. My win. Ah, you didn't have a card. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through it several times trying to get a card from him. That's a loser. That's a loser's game. Also, good morning, Davy boy. You're probably the US time thingamadoog, aren't you? I need more Australians in my chat. Unfortunately, the only chats that I have on Telegram or Discord that are Australian, like 2 years ago, I was starting to post this kind of nonsense, and they were like, who the fuck is this guy? So, oh yeah, Jason's here. Light Strife is European. Oh! Davies. Oh my gosh. Woo, I have some international peeps. It's not just filled with American, with like different flavors. No, me and you. Oh, god damn it. Alright, well, Davy boy. Congratulations, Davy boy. You are my Irish representative. I'm just gonna take a little drink. Hang on a second. There we go. You're like a stone's throw from unnamed? Damn! That's real close. I'm not a stone's throw from anyone. I think the closest person like in the whole streaming and this chat and such like that doesn't even come to my chat anymore. And I don't know where exactly in the city he lives. Like if I look around, I'm probably not. Nah, probably can't. All right. Now then, I need to get into the voice acting role. It's terrible voice acting, but I still need to do it. Ah, begging your pardon, sir, but do you perchance intend to head outside? If so, I would strongly advise you not to stray too far from the Crystarium. Word has it that Ulmore has dispatched its military to Lakeland. Given the timing, one can assume they do not welcome the return of night. Even now, the Exarch is in the ocular, deliberating a response. Alrighty. Oh, and... Good job, well done, believe in magic. Alright, I don't know which one of those. Actually, Mender. Repair all my shit, please. There we go. Not sure exactly, but I'd say within like 20 to 30 minutes away. Oh, that's very fucking close. I am familiar with a little bit of the American transportation system and how it's very reliant on cars, so 30-minute drive is not that bad. And if it's not a drive and it's public transport or walking, that's even closer. Hot damn. Hey, Jason. How long is it a trip to go from, like, Queensland to Victoria? That's like a 4-hour flight, right? Yeah, 4 hours. Okay. So yeah, so I'm about like 4 hours away from Code and Jason. 3 or 4 hours. Let's go with 4, because you're not like in the city either. You're like in some... You're like in Whoop Whoop or Wagga Wagga. Like someplace regional. Here in Texas, it's 8 hours from one end, and you wouldn't clear the state. Oh, kind of like Queensland. If you go from like the southern tip of Queensland to like... Sorry, not the southern tip. If you go from southern Queensland to, like, the northern tip of Queensland, that's, like, you know, a little over 8 hours, I'd imagine, of driving. Do you have business with the Crystal Exarch? Just say the word, and I would be happy to escort you to the Ocular. Yes, send me to the Ocular, please. We need to be binocular. Good morning, Zarex. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing okay. I'm doing a charity stream next Saturday.
You have come at a good time. As you may have heard, we have something of a quandary on our hands.
Yes, the people from Whatsamahuzi sent a military force.
Laxon Loft, here in Lakeland. Ulmore has sent one of its airships. They have questions for us concerning the death of the Light Warden. Their emissary makes his way here even as we speak.
I suppose the sky does rather give the game away.
Indeed. 'Twas inevitable they would come knocking. The only question was how soon.
Trying to relax after a few rough days? Oh, I hear ya.
My lord, I am come with the Ulmoran emissary. May I show him in?
My lord.
A moment, Captain, if you would.
You too? Yeah, so... This is obvious, like, for me, it's just a case of, being a little bit overweight, but, like, I have had a number of times where, like, my back is just sore, like, during the process of going to sleep and shit, and I inevitably, two things are gonna need to happen. Either I go to a GP who tells me who I need to go to fix my back and have someone tell me, you're too heavy, do these things, but in the meantime, you're just going to have to, you know, try and lose the weight before, or you break your back or something. Or I go for, or I find out the bed is not suitable for me anymore and I need to go for a different bed, which is going to be expensive as fuck. Is it lower back or is it upper? Lower back. It's sort of like at the sides, like where your kidneys would be. How long have you had the mattress? How long? Hang on a second. I can double check using my receipt from the Whatsamahoosies. From Super A Mart, I can give you like an accurate date. So, I went to Super A Mart November 20th, 2016. Okay, so 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23. 7 years. So I've had the I've had this mattress for at least 7 years. Hopefully this is pointing to the right thing. Yes, it is. So for the last 7 years, I've had the Posturepedic single, the Zion collection. It says there's a 10-year guarantee. You're supposed to replace them every 7. Why would they say every 7 years when they give me a 10-year guarantee? What's the point of 10 years when, like, if I'm supposed to... Why would I swap it after 7 years when they give me a 10-year guarantee? Wait, unless... Hang on. Nope, yeah, the mattress gets a 10-year guarantee. The bed frame gets, like, a 3-year guarantee for whatever reason. Just shrug. We don't have an answer for it. Yeah, it's got a 10-year guarantee. Granted, I spent only like $500 on this mattress, so maybe it's like, you know, not the best of mattresses, but, you know, I feel like 10 years is like, that's the minimum for a mattress, isn't it? Hey, chat, how long is a mattress, like, because Xerix is saying 10, you will rock the bed frame harder than the mattress. I imagine Xerix is going to tell me that they've swapped their bed, like, every year or two. It's like a dental appointment. They go to the dentist, they get their teeth checked. They go to the chiropractor, they get the bed replaced. They go to the not pediatrics. What's the foot doctor? The foototics. They go to, like, foototics or something like that, and they get their shoes replaced. I wonder if it's one of those kinds of things where every year it's a new benchmark. You in a guild and everything? I used to be in a guild. I used to be in the Himbo Guild. I used to be in the... Sorry, not the Himbo Guild. The Himbo Brigade. But that was back in Australia. I'm no longer in a guild while I'm up here in the US. The bed frame, it usually lasts 7 to 10 years. Metal up to 15. Oh. That shit did not last 3 years. The wooden slats started breaking, so my housemate got, like, decking wood, and he put the decking wood in the frame. So the sides are metal. There's, like, an additional, like, deck piece of wood to hold it up. You in the US at the moment? I'm in the US server at the moment. So you'll notice in the stream channel, I have mentioned the data center and world that I'm in. I used to be in the Oceania Materia, but it was relatively dead, I'm gonna say, because there would be so many times where I would be streaming in this evening, and even though, like, it should be approximately prime time for, you know, Oceania kind of things, going through my main quest line, I would be waiting like 20 to 30 minutes before I was able to get a party together. Whereas if I go to, like, if I go here, which is, I'm currently, I want to say Crystal Goblin without having to look at my my description again. Where in Crystal Goblin, like, tank privilege actually applies. I've been able to get into things in like 5 or 10 minutes, and that includes some of the, like, side raid content, like Alexandria. It was just a yeah. Like, I don't know, like, what a ghost server, because you'd go to Limsa Lominsa and there would be so many people there. But yeah, like, the dungeons just, they weren't popping.
Vanish.
Huh? Nice. We're gonna eavesdrop on this meeting.
Enter.
Be very, very quiet. We're conducting politicals. What's the word? We're gonna be doing what Nixon did. We're gonna pull a Watergate. Does he recognize him? Political espionage. Political espionage.
Well, well. The commander of the Yulmoran army himself. To what do I owe the honor, General Ranjit?
Alright. So... Oh, he don't... Political espionage.
The Light Warden is dead, Exarch. We hold people responsible.
What is Cookie for Sky? We gotta be very quiet. We're doing... This is some political espionage. We're not supposed to be in here.
What is Yulmor's interest in this?
His benevolence, Lord Vorthri, is gravely
Also, hi there,
concerned that the
Capricious.
actions of an ignorant few may jeopardize relations between man and Sin Eater. Should it transpire that the Crystarium is guilty of abetting the villains responsible for this outrage, my lord has decreed that it suffer the same retribution.
Night Sky Gem paid me to say a political things. Also, good night, you. Let's hope we don't get caught. Oh, whoa.
Shush, Sky! He could hear us. Boobies!
I see. Since you have been so candid, I too shall speak my mind. Regardless of who is responsible, the Crystarium rejoices in the Light Warden's death and welcomes the return of the night sky. If Yulmor considers this tantamount to aiding those you term villains, then by all means, carry out your retribution. Know, however, that even should every innocent soul in the Crystarium perish, nothing can stop that which has been set in motion.
Did you see it? Is a cutie.
Folly. The death of one or 1,000,000 Sin Eaters changes nothing.
But this is a Light Warden, which is
world
already a
dead,
bigger deal than
and
normal Sin
thrive as we
Eaters.
might, like maggots in its rotting course, it will not be reborn. Only by my master's grace may we live out our days in peace. But I waste my breath. You have made your stance clear. I shall relay your words to Lord Vorthri. In the meantime, you would do well to counsel any here who have done more than
You have a good night, Sky.
voice in recent events.
You
to
was in a
throw
guild and you
themselves
basically did
upon
all the
your
exploration
laws
stuff, built
mercy.
ships and a lot of stuff. Nice! Also, hi there, Masonic.
One last matter. We are searching for a young artist and his assistant. Know you of whom I speak?
Oh, that's us. We're the, well, I'm the assistant. Alpha Nut is the,
An
artist.
artist and his assistant, no. I cannot say I do.
What a pity. Should they reveal themselves to you, I bid you hand them over at once. My master is most eager to see them again.
Huh. I think he can see us. That is some very fucking, like, dagger look right there. He's just like, it's like, Also, hi there, Sashera. I know it was you. I don't have the evidence to support it, but I know it was you who went into my room. Like, if you're wondering what the fuck happened, Sashera put fucking chickens in my Minecraft
You
room.
just stare straight at us.
And I have a plan for those chickens. Evidence of what? Wait. So you're not actually trying to gaslight me. You have no clue how those chickens got in my room.
I fear he did.
You have no idea. God fucking... I thought of all the people, it would have to be you, because like, because like, I have just been doing the animal cruelty, however. What animal cruelty? You have no evidence of the animal cruelty in anything going off in my room. You got annoyed with me because I decided to like try and break building code and try and go for a bigger 9x9 space. I fixed that, by the way. I'm no longer breaking the building code. I'm back to 9x9. I will figure out my own way of making my my chicken farm.
The general is not a man to be trifled with. He is a warrior of fierce.
You're taking a screenshot of the two. That's not animal cruelty. They're fine. They're not dying. There's no lava. There's no hoppers to like catch their young or anything like that. They're totally fine. They're not entity cramming. How is it not? Oh my.
One does not command the world's mightiest army and
I can't just give. I can't stop. I had to put pause on the Minecraft project I had because I had to go into Final Fantasy XIV. I have priorities, Sashera. The people want me to play Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers expansion. They don't want to see me in Minecraft building shit, going into vaults. That's a purely recreational thing for me.
For your support, my lord. We cannot, in good conscience, put your people in harm's way.
Tis noble of you to say, Master Alphino, but my people have been in harm's way since long before you arrived. Yulmore has ever.
Hi there, furry cures.
What remains of the
You should
world.
get some sleep.
Even should we surrender the Warrior of Darkness to them, they would find some other pretext upon which to invade.
Hey. I don't want to see that kind of... Stop looking my ass. I need to like point and look at furry cures. There we go. I don't want to see that kind of language, okay? I know exactly why you say it. It's kind of funny, but be advised, if it is going to just be a problem for you and such, you're gonna need to rethink some things. Last time I was playing, I was working on making the food stuff for buffs. I was like 3 quests away. Hey! Ow! Masonic!
The people of the Crystarium know this only too
darn it.
well, which is why, when the time comes...
Oh, damn it, I
If
misclicked.
truth be told, I would not have been surprised had Ranjit declared war here and now.
Everyone's making me bigger, it seems.
He may have reason to delay.
Mommy. I have no, like, evidence to support why Lena is, like, best girl in this expansion yet, but...
Taking a prisoner.
It makes the ass bigger. It hyper himbos me. Do you think a himbo is just like, you know, he ain't double cheeked up? You think I'm just gonna Johnny Bravo this nonsense where it's just gonna be like a fucking Dorito on the top half, skinny legs on the bottom like Shaggy? Ow, goddamn you.
It may be that General Ranjit wishes to convey her to Yulmore before commencing hostilities.
I'm just endgame on this, so doing whatever I like as I go along. Fair enough. You see what happens to me, Light Strife? People, like, make me bigger, and then they just want to throw Cactar at me, and then just ruin this day.
Having mentored generations of Minfilius, it would not surprise me if he had made her capture his chief concern.
Generations of Minfilias? What the fuck are they on about?
Ah, of course. How remiss of me. I had intended to speak to you of Minfilia.
Oh,
There is, however, much to say, and precious little time in which to say.
Thank you, Xerix, for being my biggest fan. I greatly appreciate it. Fuck Hendrix. Hendrix isn't here all the time, but you're here. You're my biggest fan. You're the Final Fantasy Hrothgar. Nice. Of course.
I think it best that you seek out Moren at the Cabinet of Curiosity. He'll be able to enlighten you.
No idea where that
Alphino,
is.
Alize, would you care to accompany your friend? You doubtless have insights of your own to offer on the matter.
Oh.
All right. Though I'm still not sure I understand it all myself.
I see someone in my chat that I'm gonna need to move into here after the dialogue.
In the meantime,
I gotta sleep at this time. I feel no, Hendrix. I feel you. Quite frankly, I say this every time, and this is like one of the reasons why
I've yet to meet one that can outsmart a bullet.
it's why I very much like Stack Overflows. Oh, thank you, Sashera. You're my number one. You're my biggest fan. Absolutely fantastic. All the bullying I do to you in Party Animals and Minecraft and all that means nothing because you are my biggest fan. Fuck Xerix. He only just got here. But you, Sashera, you're my biggest fan. Also, shoutouts to Sashera. Look at this. Look at this Aussie.
Go back. Go back to the sea.
Yay!
Wait, was that recent?
Yay.
Were you
No!
You were recently playing Minecraft on stream.
Why would you do this?
Save him! Save him! Yay! Ryan! Oh my god, he's just putting him down the stairs now, for fuck's sake.
Don't you have like a fishing rod?
Why do you like this?
Ah, thank you, Jason, for being my biggest fan. Fuck Sashera. We're gonna keep bullying Sashera. You're my biggest fan. You're one of my best moderators out there. You're probably one of the closest Australians in this chat to me, geographically speaking. Thank you for being my biggest fan. Holy bejesus, 95%. Are you kidding me? That's a very high himbo rating. Nice work. You're getting there. It's a good start. Alright, now that I'm out of the cutscene, I can now pull in the person that's been sitting in my private streaming channel. Hi, this is Cap.
How you doing, chat? It's me, the best warrior ever to exist ever.
This is...
Oh, thank you, Avalon, for being my biggest fan. Hang on a second, I'll just mute the Discord so you don't have to keep hearing this profanity. Fuck Jason. Moderators don't need to be my biggest fan. They're my moderators. They just need to, you know, do their... keep an eye on the whatsamahoozies and the thingamabobbies. You, Avalon, however, you're my biggest fan. You taught me how to do the squats properly and what have you. Thank you so much. Sorry about that, Cap.
I was just rambling.
Radio. It's so strange that, like, in a very short amount of time, I've had, like, so many people doing the biggest fan. Like, normally that only happens, like, maybe once a month. It is now at a... It's now at a level where it's like, oh, it costs, like, a minimum 5,000. It is a competition of my affection. I remember...
Oh, this is...
You know what? Never mind. Avalon, you're no longer my biggest fan. You've only given me pain and misery, and you're never around long enough. However, Jason, they're my biggest fan. They're always here for me. Oh my god, it's the Pumpkinhead! It's Davey!
Oh yeah, I should probably go with Chris Derry and say hello as well.
Pink. It's Davey. Woo! Hard to hear your friend? Oh, hang on a second. Was it?
Oh. Murio Kusho. How's that sound?
That should be better. So, it's probably just a case of, like, if I'm talking, then it, like, fucks up the comms just a little bit.
What do, pussy boy?
Oh yeah, this is you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Invite to party. Invite to party. You can't... Okay. There can only be one tank in this party. There's a height requirement.
I have no other classes that are 80,
Furicures 1221
I
paid
got
me to say
bigger
go
numbers
suck
than
a
you.
lemon.
Alrighty, well, hopefully we'll get, like, one of those, like, full party things rather than a light party. Oh, would you look at that?
to elaborate because I don't know what I just said.
Or we could all just go tanks and and unsync it and just go fucking crazy.
Oh, that would actually be hilarious. Wait, is my Wondrous... Oh, no, my Wondrous Tales has expired. Damn it. It would have been absolutely hilarious doing a Wondrous Tales as just, like, full tank. Oh, look
it's like, have you seen that video of Thancred? And it's just, like, the party is all Thancred in his different classes.
No, I have not... Wait, how many times has Thancred been a different class? Are you including the time he was, like, La Habrea?
Alright, so, he's been a thief. He has been a gun bunker. He has been... What else has he been? I know he's been a thief and a gun bunker.
Has he been a ninja?
I don't think he's been a ninja. Let me check.
I don't know why, because he had, like, an infatuation with, like, the ninja lady in, Stormbot. Hi there, Velk! Gladiator if you start in Ul'dah. Wait, was Thancred a, gladiator in the Ul'dah? Okay.
He's been a gladiator, a rogue, and a shadowbringer.
A gunbreaker. Which is what I am right now.
I don't need a gun. I just need big axe.
Look, I like big axe. He was a thief, ninja, gunbreaker, gladiator for a short time. Yeah. So he's been 2 different kinds of DPSs and technically a tank and a half.
Tanks. 1 tank.
Yeah, because gladiator ain't a tank.
Gladiator's tank.
Not really.
It's blue.
It's not with a soul crystal.
Yeah, and?
Also, I'm going the wrong way. I need to go this way. I don't know my way around this place.
Yeah, this place is a fucking maze. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. Alright, so what's this blue one? Signs of the First. No, it's not there.
I'm gonna go to a spoilery area and do other shit.
Oh. Boy, if I had a nickel for someone experienced in Final Fantasy XIV in my chat who just went off to spoilery stuff while I'm in mine, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't much, but it's weird that it's happened twice. I'm a very wordy person. Also, do I have this thing? Yes, I do. Okay, so I was just an idiot and was lazy. Let me make it here.
Oh, one moment, chat.
Let me make it 3. 1 sec. Just a reminder, Velk. I'm over in the Goblin Crystal area. Oh, hey there, Xerix.
Ladies and gentlemen of the chat, my cat's here, and he's being loud.
I can't hear the cat.
I like peace.
I'm half expecting you to do what that kid did, when it's like, I'm gonna put my cat on the mic, and was just like, hang on, what?
Speak up, Iggs. He's next to the mic. Come on. There we go. Ah! My desk! Don't touch my gumplers. Don't touch my marines. Iggy! My medicine! My deodorant! Iggy, don't get my incense. Okay, he's gone down.
Riveting stuff.
Cat cameo.
You know what's better than a well-behaved cat? Any kind of dog.
I'll kill you for that.
No, dude, just dog. Dogs where it at. Did you see what Davey wrote in the chat?
Yeah. I'm a BRB.
What if we held
He's
hands
hungry
as a treat?
Little bitch boy.
Alrighty then, you deal with the little bitch boy. I'm gonna deal with
my
Morin
little
as they explain to me more things while Xerix is behind me, waiting for me to acknowledge him.
I guess you could say he's explaining Morin stuff to you. Thank you, chat. I'll be healed. Make sure you tip your waiter.
Yes? If you're after books pertaining to the Warrior of Darkness, I'm afraid most are out on loan at present. They are experiencing quite a surge in popularity. Oh, you wish to learn about the Oracle of Light? Then it would be my pleasure to assist. After I have finished off some few outstanding tasks, that is. While I attain to them, perhaps you could fetch me a book. The Illustrated Tale of the Oracle of Light, it's called. Though it's intended for younger readers, it provides an excellent summary of the subject matter, and the artwork is quite lovely. Besides, I would not hesitate to recommend it to anyone with an interest in learning about Minfilia. But you must see for yourself. The book should be located on the level below. Should, I say. For a while, there's a place for everything here. Not everything is always in its place, despite my best efforts.
Ferricures 1221 paid me to say the reason I hate daylight savings time is because I now don't know when you go live now.
This is why I do like the 3 different... Also, if you go into the Twitch's... when you're on my channel, there's a subheading. Like, if I'm not online, there's like a subheading for schedule. And if you click on that, it provides you... If I've set a time, like ahead of time for a stream. So, for example, every Saturday is the MMO night stream. Mondays is backlog. Wednesdays is whatever. And then, like, if I set those things ahead of time, the schedule will adjust to your time zone. So then that way you're able to see it in your local time when I'm streaming next. You can just keep an eye out on the Discord notifications. That too. I have tried so many different ways to like try and get people up and at 'em. Like my call to actions are like I'm going through like 12 different Discords. I used to have like 2 Telegram groups I used to post this in, but now I only do like maybe 1. Twitter, this thing, like so many of them. In short, if the book is not where it should be, it will most certainly be somewhere it shouldn't. So, good luck. Alright, we're gonna look for a book.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's so many fucking bugs outside, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with that shit. Alright.
Yeah.
Yay, we're a light party. Alright, what's in this towering shelf? The books do not appear to be here. So yeah. So how far into Final Fantasy are you, Cap? You're basically at Endwalker patch content, aren't you?
On my main, I'm at Endwalker patch content, but on Big Stick, I'm only just starting Endwalker. But honestly, I could be done within the week because I'm not fucking watching cutscenes.
Ah, okay. It's relatively quick trying to get through that stuff.
I have no idea. This is going to be my second time.
Ah, okay.
I'm just going to be skipping everything.
Fair enough. Just as your eyes begin to blur, they finally come to rest on a copy of The Illustrated Tale of the Oracle of Light. Yay. I can finally go back up and say, here's your book, librarian. Zarex is towards the end of Endwalker. They just need to reach level 89. I did a little bit of a cheeky thing, and I made it so that because I reached level 80, I went and purchased the Endwalker expansion, so then that way my characters could still level up, despite the fact I wasn't yet at an area that needed me to be higher than level 80 right now.
That's fair enough, honestly.
So yeah.
I would have done the same.
So yeah, because my Warrior and Dark Knight are at 80. Gunbreaker, I've been slowly doing things with him, and quite frankly, if I went and got myself a new Wondrous Tales and got like 9 of the things done, he would have been at level 80, but I fucked up and didn't finish like 1 or 2 things. Have you found the book? Book. Be like me and never know when he goes live. Avalon! Did you... Oh, boobies. Avalon, if you ever know me, if you didn't hear me like 5-10 minutes ago, I am posting like nearly everywhere when I am going live. How is it that you know when Goreflem is live? Like, you're always in there. Granted, you're a moderator, so I feel like there's probably like some sort of responsibility that's going off there where you're playing the. It's usually you that's pinning the LeChonk, I feel like, as well in Goreflem's channel. But yeah, you seem to always be aware, and I'ma be real. The only times I'm aware that Goreflem is streaming is because they posted in their Discord, and that's it. Because they bother me? Wait, what? Like, they like legitimately poke you and go, hey, you're my moderator. I need you in my channel. Wake up! Maybe that's what I need to do.
Oh,
I just...
You're in a library too. I'm in a different library.
Ah.
This library is bigger and full of fucking nerds. I'm gonna fuck these books and come in them and fucking piss them off.
Don't come in the books, okay? That's just really rude.
I'm not in the books.
Not in the books!
There's two things my characters know. Number one, come in the book. Number two, eat poison.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cap. This is the person responsible for all kinds of art and has drawn Zebra as a DILF one time.
That I have done. I'm actually going to find the pic of my old character eating poison because it's a very good image, and I commissioned someone for it and it was great.
You're just gonna make it as like your new PNG on this Discord Fugi thing?
I would if I could, but I don't know how.
How did you do this one then? Because I didn't have to do any sort of edits.
I lost code, but I forgot.
Oh, you forgot.
I forgot.
You forgot. Yes, this is the one. I hope it wasn't too difficult to track down. I'm happy to say I've finished all my pressing tasks. If you want to call your friends over, we can begin learning at once. Ah, it's like The Wiggles or Sesame Street. We get to listen to someone else read the book for us.
paid me to say go suck a lemon.
I found it.
You go suck a lemon, Furry Cures.
Now that is what we call a skill issue.
Without further ado, then. It began 100
Don't make
years...
me send you to Jesus myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, she High Gale eating a poison.
I've seen that. I swear I've seen that prior to this, but I never remember. I never remembered this being like. I'm gonna be real. I thought this was Sashera, but then I realized she's not the scaly race. She's the cat race, and that's a scaly.
Yeah. Yummy, yummy poison. Oh, so tasty. Oh, delicioso.
The Peter Parker. No, Avalon. But like this in its entirety with all the like. Sashera, look at this.
Tasty poison. Oh, I love the dungeons that when I walk, it give me the poison. Yummy, yummy, yummy.
That's Cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's delicious poison. Did you know capsaicin is a poison, which is the thing that makes things spicy? Additionally, caffeine is poison.
Okay, no, hang on. What was the first one you said?
Capsaicin.
Don't you mean capsicum?
No, capsaicin, the molecule.
Oh, I thought
that capsicum comes from. Capsaicin.
No. The thing you're talking about is in capsicum.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Capsaicin is a chemical compound that makes things spicy.
I feel like you're giving me like the longer word, like the chemical nonsense thing for salt.
No, capsaicin is a chemical compound. The big name for it is 8-methyl-N-vinyl nonamide.
You're gonna need to maybe write it down for me.
I have to like write it down and put it in chat. It's a big.
Hello. It's a big. Hi there, YY. Welcome to the stream. I am going through more of Shadowbringers, and Cap is eating poison.
Yummy, delicioso. Oh, so tasty.
8-methyl and vanadium trans and 6 nomenamide. Oh, sorry, 6 nonamade.
Nom nomine.
Non nom nem me.
No anime.
6 nom 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 nom.
6 no anime.
No anime. People think it will be a delicious stream. Swap that C for an R. It's going to be a delirious stream. Wait, did I swap the right character?
Sasha paid me to say I am way too confused and at this point I'm too afraid to
I did
ask.
not track that, to be honest.
So, I remember seeing this image here of a DPS, what's-a-mahoozy, I can't remember the name of the species, sipping poison. I didn't think it was associated with Cap, because she was the one who commissioned it and what have you. And for whatever reason, when I look at that image, and in the gap between my brain making the connection of this is an image that I've seen before and this is the image Cap commissioned, I thought that was you, Sashera. Cookie for YY.
Oh, delicioso cookie. Does it have poison in it? Yum 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 yum.
No, cookies don't have poison. Don't be delirious.
Poison. Chocolate chips contain caffeine. Caffeine is a poison.
I refuse to believe caffeine is a poison.
Caffeine is absolutely a poison.
No, caffeine. You cannot tell me caffeine is. I will accept it being addictive. I will not accept it being fucking cookie. Once again for YY. I will not accept it being poison.
Hold on. Okay, caffeine isn't toxic to humans, but to most other mammals, caffeine is very toxic. It was evolved to stop fucking animals from eating like caffeine plants with caffeine in it. It's the way cocoa has caffeine.
Right.
You did not believe me for a second, but I am telling you the truth.
I kind of believe you because, you know, dogs can't eat chocolate, so it definitely makes sense that, like, other animals couldn't eat caffeine because of the chocolate and caffeine. I don't know. Like, a part of me still does, but it's still so weird to hear, oh yeah, caffeine is poisonous, when I'm like, you know, most poisonous things will poison humans, but then there's like, oh, there's a few poisonous things that don't poison humans.
Yeah, no. Humans are built different.
Mm.
We drink alcohol. Like, that should be enough to say, okay, we're fucking... What's wrong with us?
Well,
what's going on?
To be fair, the Bible said some dude just, like, ate grapes that were way off.
The Bible said that?
Yeah, like, the Bible had, like, some dude, like, there was a flood, and then they found land... He got some plants, they were grapes, he crushed them into a wine, he got drunk, and he got drunk so hard that his sons had to, like, he was naked for some reason, and his sons, without looking at him, had to, like, you know, drape a cloth over him to, like, you know, give him some decency. But they had to, like, walk backwards so they wouldn't see his father's butt naked.
So Noah was white boy wasted.
Yes. Noah was white boy wasted.
Funnily enough, my brother, who's also named Noah, got so white boy wasted that a couple of years later he converted to Islam.
Well, that I don't know if that's a white boy wasted thing. Like, was it by accident he converted to Islam, like when you get married in Texas, or was this more of a commitment thing, like going and joining?
No, he's fully with it.
All right. Yeah, I guess that's hardly a white boy drunk thing, and that's more of a, you know,
No, this was years later.
Okay, cool. Nice. Oh my god, we've been conversing through. Sashara is so lost. We need like a wait, Cap. Are you on the spectrum or anything like that, like ADHD or something?
I am autistic as fuck, homeboy.
We need a neuro normal.
Me and you're a typical person in here, but I hate neurotypical people. They're fucking annoying.
Well, here's the thing, is that we're both neurodivergent. We need, like, one neurotypical in here, because then that way we can just sort of balance out just a little bit. Cookie for YY, once again. So, that way, like, because, you know, every comedy routine always has that straight-faced man. Like how...
Yeah, straight man.
Yeah, the straight man. Thank you. Which, like, was one of the issues with the remake of Ghostbusters, the one with all the women. So, because, like, none of them were the straight man. You had one that was just overtly overtly loud, another that was, like, you know, just proper kooky. I can't remember her name, but she's honestly such a fun actress. She was the one in Barbie, like, she was weird Barbie.
I haven't watched Barbie or Ghostbusters, the new one.
Okay, you don't need to watch the new Ghostbusters, but I would recommend Barbie, okay? It's very much up there on like the long list of films that they're like, "Oh yeah, you should probably watch this at least once." Barbie is up there.
I've also never watched the original Ghostbusters. I've seen the like last scene of it, but like I've never fully watched it.
Are you a god? No. When someone asks if you're a god, you answer, yes! Alrighty, back to the story, as Moren says. It began 100 years ago, when the flood of light threatened to swallow the Norvidant. Just as all seemed lost, a savior appeared who halted the all-consuming radiance. A maiden with hair spun gold and eyes of clearest sapphire. Naught was known about her save that her name was Minfilia, and for delivering the realm she came to be revered as the Oracle of Light. After stopping the flood, the mysterious maiden vanished without a trace, but 15 years later, her name would unexpectedly reappear in the annals of history.
I want to say something real quick. Whenever they talk about, you know, the flood of light, I always think of the flood from Halo.
Oh, the insect, not the insect, the bio shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. When they talk about the flood of light, I just have that visual of, like, when Louis Soir in, like, the Realm Reborn cinematic is just, like, about to get fucking blasted by Bahamut. That's the flood of light I think of, is just, like, you know, you're just watching a fucking explosion happening right in front of you.
Bone Masky Dog with the 16-month tier 1
every
sub.
time
16 months it feels like yesterday I asked for your FEMA for the first time.
Also, did we get a sub?
Yes, we did! Bone Mask Dog, thank you for the 16 months! I greatly appreciate it! You don't have to deal with advertisements like what happened a few minutes ago, and you get to use all kinds of cool emotes. Have you found a favorite yet? No, I don't have a femur to give you. Sorry, you were saying?
Much obliged. Thank you, Bone Master Dog. Welcome to the best stream ever.
Thank you.
Which is only the best stream because I don't stream.
When Sin Eaters laid ruin to the kingdom of Obert, a young girl was discovered who was immune to the creature's blighted touch. One with hair of spun gold and eyes of clearest sapphire, she was hailed as the Oracle Reborn, and came to likewise be called Minfilia. Enlisting in the Ulmoran army, this Minfilia fought and vanquished countless Sin Eaters. Yeah, excuse me. She looks weirdly young in that illustration. Alas, like so many other soldiers, she eventually met her end in battle. Yet, with her dying breath, she whispered unto her grieving comrades, "Minfilia will return." And true to her words, some years later, another young girl was discovered who possessed the self-same eyes, that self-same hair, and those self-same powers. She too took the name Minfilia. She too fought Sin Eaters as a soldier of Ulmor, and she too fell in battle. Many more were to follow in her footsteps, and so the cycle continues to this day.
It's basically like Doctor Who. She regenerates.
Well, it's like...
Except not really.
It's a more classic reincarnation rather than the British reincarnation.
I love British reincarnation.
British reincarnation is so dumb. Like, what's more is like they ruined like the regeneration thingamadiggy by making the Doctor the whatsamahoozy child.
Child.
The timeless child. Like, here's the thing. when they first explained the story of like, oh, the timeless child was like discovered by Gallifreyans and a doctor was looking over and trying to replicate the thing, and then they do the twist of, oh, the doctor is the timeless child. What they should have done, I feel like this would have been one of the easiest retcons, but just change the story where the twist, instead of it being like, oh, a doctor was able to extract the timeless thingamadiggy, just make it a revelation that it's the quote-unquote the doctor. And make it so that, like, you know, the whole reason, like, he left, like, there's always been this cycle of the Doctor, and at this point, because they've obviously done the memory manipulation countless number of times, they could easily have made it where it's like, oh, the Doctor, riddled with guilt over experimenting and killing a child over and over and over again, chose to remove their memory of this timeless child. But by the time they did this, it was already, like, too late. Gallifreyans had all turned into Time Lords, and the, you know, the Gallifreyan, like, High Command or some shit like that kept the 13 regenerations in the Doctor and kept secret, you know, the Doctor's whole, you know, toolkit of how to do the timeless child nonsense.
Additionally, here's a take. They could have retconned that, like, fucking, like, the timeless child, knowing the guilt, sacrifices its own life to, like, fucking keep the Doctor, you know, going, and in so the Doctor getting infinite regens.
That could be a possibility as well. Either way, the retcon in this case is the case of either A, the Doctor has the knowledge and you know, forgotten and released the knowledge on how to do the infinite number of regenerations, or the Doctor was given the infinite number of regenerations because of the timeless child. Like, these are much better options than just the all of a sudden Mary Sue moment of, oh, this Doctor, this random Gallifreyan you've been following, who you originally followed because he was just like the 1 in a million alien Gallifreyans who were nice, but there was always a nice Gallifreyan, but you're just following this particular one. In actuality, none of that matters. They were just a fucking godchild or something like that. Like, it...
Don't even get me started on the fugitive Doctor. Fuck.
Like, the Doctor that was between 8 and 9?
Is that where the fugitive Doctor? No, that's the War.
That's the War Doctor. Sorry, the fugitive Doctor. You're
fugitive
talking.
Doctor is the black woman.
That's it. Like, she would have been cool. It would have been interesting if it was like, oh, here's a Doctor that you're no doubt going to get in like a season or two, like how they did River Song. But to be fair, River Song is now just stuck in Moffat universe, really, because she's only there for like three regenerations tops.
But Moffat's back.
Moffat's back?
Moffat's back!
Do we want Moffat back? I can't remember if Moffat was a good idea or not.
Wait, what? Is Moffat back? Am I thinking of someone? No, am I?
You're thinking... I thought you were thinking of Davis, the one for when it was the David Tennant Doctor Who.
I thought that was Moffat. No, Moffat had some stories in that.
No, Moffat had some stories. Moffat was basically the lead for when Matt Smith was the Doctor.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, Moffat era was very good. I enjoyed Moffat era.
I think the Moffat era had a really good, you know, just sort of it, because let's be real, like the Kraken time was during Moffat when he was like leading it and what have you, and I'm pretty sure Moffat era ended with like the last reference to the Kraken time. They seem to have like down pat, which I feel like, despite the fact the Marvel Cinematic I'm gonna have to bring up the Marvel Cinematic Universe on this one. No one has been able to do Phase 1 to Phase 3 Marvel Cinematic Universe themselves. No one's been able to do the whole, here's a like loosely connected universe that we've been able to like slowly, you know, interweave and then do like a proper conclusion to the end. We don't talk about Phase 4, Phase 5 Marvel because, quite frankly, that like they're rushing.
Should have stopped at Endgame.
They should have, but this is unfortunately an inherent issue with Western comic book industry that manga doesn't really have with a lot of their like shonen and shippen. So
if chat says One Piece, ban them, because One Piece isn't long enough.
No. I'm not gonna argue about the length of time for One Piece, okay? We're only like halfway there, I think, according to Oda, and we still got a long way to go. He could easily
we're
fuck
in,
it
like,
up.
the second to last arc.
We're not in this. Okay, that doesn't really say much because the length of the arcs keeps getting longer.
Okay, yeah, good point.
So, but basically, when we were done with Wano arc, he said we were halfway there. So, but yeah, like, One Piece is a sort of an enigma. But when you look at, like, a whole ton of other, like, I'm talking Siren, Attack on Titan, Naruto, Bleach, Breaker, Death Note, like, a lot of those don't normally go for over 5. Oh, History's Strongest Disciple, like, with its 2 arcs. That one doesn't go on forever as well. There is, like, progression and there's conclusion. And the reason why I much rather prefer manga over a lot of the Western comics is because, at least when you're dealing with Marvel and DC, because of their whole wanting to keep things going in perpetuity, you end up with a problem where no one changes, which means there's no progression. You're stagnant or you're lying to yourself. This is kind of why I don't like Eren in Attack on Titan. Everyone's like just having an absolute hard on it of like, oh, here's a man who didn't change. He's really just like a child after all these years and knows nothing but violence and shit. It's like, the dude's option was genocide. That's a bad thing. I don't care if he was hoping for his friends to best his genocide plan, but no, do not say Eren is a good guy.
Additionally, I'm going to say, let's get back onto the topic of Final Fantasy.
Fair enough.
We have been tangented so hard.
I am so sorry. That concludes the tale.
No, my fault. I brought up Doctor Who.
Yeah. By their valor and sacrifice, these women have saved Norvarant on numerous occasions, and were it not for them, we might never have learned the Light Wardens and their nature. They sound like formidable warriors. Some, perhaps. The truth is rather less simple. Though the Oracle is reborn with certain common traits, she does not inherit the memories or the knowledge of her previous incarnations. All of the Minphilias thus far were discovered as ordinary girls, unversed in the ways of war and ignorant of the power they harbored. While some embraced their fate and devoted themselves to training, others did not. But all were made to face the Sin Eaters, and all died to keep our hopes safe. Or, our hopes alive. I fucked up the last sentence. What can you tell us of the current Minphilia? She was found by the Ulmorian army some 10 years ago and taken into their care, or rather their custody. She was a prisoner in all but name, for by that time, under Lord Valthyri's rule, Ulmor has already abandoned resistance in favor of decadence. Minphilia was an uncomfortable reminder of the war they no longer wished to fight, a potential threat to the peace, and so they kept her under lock and key. For a long while, we heard nothing more of her. We couldn't even be certain she was alive, save that it was in Ulmorian's best interest for her to remain under their control. But then, 3 years ago, a gallant soul stole into the city and rescued her from their clutches, just like a hero from the tales. Indeed. Well, I believe we now have a good grasp of Minphilia's tale. Thank you for your time, Morin. Nice. Might I trouble you for a word, Grant? Outside? The reasoning why. He lived long enough to be a villain. I hate to break it to you.
Let's not start.
Like, I'm gonna... Look, I'm just gonna have to say it. He did not live that long. He wasn't in his 30s or his 40s, okay? He was fucking, like 21 or something, and he decided on his genocide thing at 18 because he had the belief of, oh, fate cannot be changed. But yeah. As you will have already surmised, the gallant soul who rescued Minphilia was none other than our own dear Thancred. Oh, joy. Because that's not gonna, do some crazy, like, mommy issues for Thancred, is it? Thancred thinks of Minfilia as like a mother, doesn't he?
Nah. Thancred's down bad. So that's
he is down
arguably
bad.
worse.
Thancred, he down bad.
Thancred, stop. That's a child. Thancred, no!
I'm just thinking of Avatar: The Last Airbender when Sokka was like, "My girlfriend turned into the moon," and Zuko was just like, "That's rough, buddy." I can imagine Thancred just being like, "My love turned into the Oracle of Light," and you just have fucking like Estinian or someone going, "That's rough, buddy."
Nah, Urianger going like, "My word, that is thine roughest, most inconsequential circumstance, my friend."
Nah, you got Urianger's like wording down, but I feel like Urianger, like, what's the name of the Rogadin woman? Fuck, she died all the way back in A Realm Reborn. I'm trying to remember her name.
Fuck. Monbrida.
Thank you. Monbrida. Thank you, Xerix. My goodness, it's a good thing we've got Final Fantasy experts in the chat.
I only know because I've played A Realm Reborn too many times because I've made too many characters.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, so Minfilia was none other than our own dear Thancred. They have since been wandering the land together, never remaining in one place for long, which is why we have not yet had a chance to meet them. We know that Minfilia journeyed here as Hydaelyn's emissary to halt the Flood of Light. It could only be her that the people of the First witnessed 100 years ago, the original Oracle of Light. But while there's plainly some connection between the woman we knew and her namesakes, the fact that these girls do not share her memories must surely mean they are not the same person. Thancred has to understand that. I have no doubt that he understands. The question is how he feels. Regardless, the Thancred we know would not forsake his change. His chance, sorry. If she had been captured, we may be certain he will not stand idly by. There you go again, talking in your roundabout way. If you think we should rescue Minfilia, just spit it out. It just so happens I agree with you. It's quite clear that this Minfilia possesses Hydaelyn's blessing. And it wouldn't hurt to have a second such individual on our side. Right, Grant? Quite. I see you've made up your minds. Exarch, what brings you here? A report and a proposal. First, the report. Our scouts have confirmed that the Ulmorian forces at Laxin Loft do indeed have Minfilia in their custody. For the present, they are holding her there, but we can be certain they will move her to Ulmor ere long. Should that happen, we may be forced to give her up as lost. So if we mean to act, we should do so quickly. Which brings me to my proposal. I ask that you entrust this undertaking to us, the people of the Crystarium. They're not going to succeed on this one, I feel. Dunk.
You are doubtless eager to attempt Minfilia's rescue, and with your combined strength, you may well succeed. But as I said earlier, I do not wish to show our hand unless absolutely...
Cookie for Bookie! Here's your cookie, Bookie.
"'Twas not merely the night sky that you restored to us, but hope. Hope for the future of Norvrand."
Nice.
Unlike you, we cannot contend with the Light Wardens, but so long as hope burns in our hearts, we will fight on regardless.
That is a very blocky hand. I thought his hand had a little more detail than that.
My friends, I thank you for gathering at such short notice. There is something I would ask you all. As many of you are aware, I received an emissary from Yulmore a short while ago in the form of General GrantZeebs. To my dismay, the General condemned the slaying of the Light Warden, and warned me in no uncertain terms that, should the Crystarium cast its lot with the Warrior of Darkness, there would be war.
They are doing a graphical update for Dawn Trail, but it's not to like a really high degree. It's more about being able to do emissions and a lot more of their reflective nonsense. Not like, you know, mesh changes like this.
And yet my heart cries out to fight. Better that than relinquish the hope that swelled in my breast when I beheld the night sky for the first time in 100 years. Or so says my heart. My mind, meanwhile, reminds me that to follow my heart would be to risk everything we have accomplished thus far. Clearly, this is not a decision to be made lightly, nor less alone. And so I put the question to you all. What should we do?
My lord, you already know our minds. It brought tears to our eyes to witness the knight's return. The whole of Norvrant deserves the same, and not just because some children's story tells us so.
Oh, I thought the cat oh, there we go.
Influence is far-reaching. Should war break out, trade would be subject to restrictions.
They do have the accent!
Flow of goods will dry up, and we will struggle to make do with what little trickles through. But make do we will.
Aye, we can weather such hardships. Is that not the very thing the Crystarium was built for?
Okay, why does the flywheel have, like, crystals on the tips? It's just spinning with a light source.
We've always taken pride in our ability to sustain ourselves. Not just to endure, but to thrive.
When all falls down around you, rise up. Those were your words. There may come a day when all hope seems lost, but even should the rest of the world give in to despair, we shall not. We shall fight on, that our children and our children's children might know a better tomorrow.
Rousing words apart, I never much cared for those Yulmoran bastards anyway.
Nice.
No better than common swindlers, most of them. Wouldn't know a fair deal if it came up and kissed them on the arse.
Trust you to spoil the moment.
It appears we have a consensus. Let it be known that the Yulmoran host at Laxon Loft has taken the Oracle of Light captive. They fear the power she holds over the Sinita.
Oh shit!
And doubtless intend to imprison her once more.
I was out fucking making drink and
I move that we rescue the Oracle,
for my mum.
grant her a place among us,
And then there were bugs.
and let that be our answer to Yulmore's ultimatum.
Well, yeah, there are bugs outside, but no, I'm getting attacked by a troll right now.
Here, here!
Here, here!
In planning a strategy for the rescue, I open the floor to you all.
Ooh. She sounds sexy.
Dude, Lena?
Yeah.
And
Lena's
there you
hot.
have it. If Yulmore wishes to denounce us as villains, then we shall embrace our
I would do
villainy.
the sex at her.
Do the,
Will you do so
do the
as well?
sex? Oh, I need to share you a video.
We will not be outdone. Consider us your
Let me see
partners
the
in
video.
crime.
I love videos. They entertain my eyeballs.
I need to find it.
My lord, our proposal is as follows. We begin by deploying Amaro to occupy the skies over Lakeland. They should serve to delay the airship's departure.
This one, yes.
You've seen it already. The Sir, I pursue your
At the same
Twitter.
time, we scatter dream powder from the air.
That's basically
Not all will
every
succumb to its
non-English
effects,
commissioner I
but
get,
it should thin
which
the
is not a
enemy's
lot.
numbers,
When
affording
I
us
do,
an opening to
it's
swoop
good.
in and liberate the
They're
Oracle.
very polite.
Let me hang on. Let me share in my chat so they know the video that I'm
Very
talking
good.
about
Proceed
as
your
well.
preparations.
Oh no! I just shared it when a raid went off. Hi raiders! Do not click on the YouTube video if you were not prepared for it. Welcome. Furry Cure saying Bean Raid. Wolfgang Cerberus saying hi.
Welcome, gang. It is I, the Poison Eater, and the himbo I stand with.
And what exciting
Hi,
crimes
my name
will
is
you
Grant.
us
I'm
tonight?
I'm the
Speaking
actual
for my
streamer
fellow
gamer
villains,
here.
I
That's
feel
Cap, an
capable of most
artist that
things,
is helping me
though
out
we
in
draw
Final
the line
Fantasy
at
XIV
indolence.
once in a while. I'm a variety streamer. Tonight is MMO night, so we're going through Final Fantasy XIV. I will sometimes go on tangents like we did the last half hour
excitement is
ago
your desire,
when
then
we
I
were
think you
talking about
Captain Lena will
like
give
Doctor
you
Who regenerations and the issue with long form comic not in Western media versus Japan.
Ladies and gentlemen, as soon as the raid began, we get another cameo from my shitboy son.
It's they mean her cat.
Yeah. He's being loud. He's been fed. He's been fed.
But I can't hear a thing, which is probably saying quality to the noise gate on your microphone.
I have a very good microphone.
It's pretty good.
I don't even call it a microphone sometimes. I call it Michael. Michael phone.
Mr. Phone, Michael. So, you will be joining the squad, but however highly the Exarch thinks of you, you will receive no special treatment from me. Is that clear? Where's your salute, soldier? I love how we're doing the, oh, what's the Australian, super company? Industry Super, that's it. Okay, this might be a bit of a leap for the non-Australian viewers, but there is an advertisement. Let me adjust my camera angle as well, so I'm like there's an advertisement in Australia which talks about Industry Super because you get superannuation from work and you can normally like opt for a particular one or whichever one the company has. It's kind of like health insurance in the US, but it is a requirement that you have one when you go into a job, both part-time and full-time. And
we're talking about Super.
Yeah, we're talking about Super. So there's this pose that they do where where their hands will do this thing.
The fucking from Little Things Big Things. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Xerix, for the hyper himbo. Like, what the fuck did you just watch with that link? Furry Cures. It's a commission. Basically, it's a joke on like, oh, the average non-English commissioner to the English artist is just, sir, I pursue your Twitter. You are creator of sex. It's just so silly.
Pursue your Twitter. You are creator of sex.
I can actually play it, and it won't pop up in the VOD, but anyone who's here right now will hear it. It is so dumb. It is so great, though, because that is quite honestly the mood sometimes. But why? I choose you to be we. By the by, I chose you. I assumed that because I'm pretty sure you said something just before. Oh no, like within a minute of my robot doing a shout out for Wolfgang. So basically, you were already here when the raid started. You didn't have to like wait for it to load or anything like that, and you shouted in all caps, "Bean Raid." So yeah, but yeah, welcome everyone. Now, first things first, you will need uniforms. Go to the Crystalline Mean and report to Catlis. She will see you measured and fitted. Alright.
But you're already fit.
I'm already fit. Hi there, Leon. Alrighty then. So yeah, plus I have like as good of a gear as I can get for my guy.
Emotional damage.
Thank you, Aria Soul Song, for for the nice cock. Also, I think I'm good at nuclear dying now.
Pull the lever, Grunk.
Everyone just wants me in like pain. They're throwing knives. They're wee bowling, and then one of them like throws me down a hole.
Throw you down my hole.
All the same person, actually. Yes. Although you weren't here earlier for when I got Cactar thrown up the wazoo to me. Also, it's raining!
Oh, hey, you're here. Oh, wait, no, you're not here.
Who?
I was confused because it's also raining where I'm at in the game.
Lol. It can rain in multiple places.
It confuses me. Weather confuses me. I'm no fucking meteorologist.
I'm no...
Why do they call it that? There's no meteors.
Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy?
Why they call it oven when you oven the cold food out of hot eat the food.
No, I don't. No, you get bonked. I don't want to hear that copy pasta. I can barely think with that oven thing.
Honestly, that shit's like you know how you classically you kill a computer by feeding it paradoxes? That's my fucking paradox.
It's just a silly like sentence structure that the first thing would just sort of be like, nah, I don't want to process that nonsense.
I'm also gonna switch back to the default because it's easier.
Fair enough. You made your point with like the poison eating thingamajiggy, and it like reminded me of some things. So yeah.
Can't you blame me? Poison tasty.
Ah, there's the last of them. Your friends are being measured as we speak. Right this way. We'll see to it you look your dashing best for our first outing. I wonder if it gives
me... We don't have enough cloth for your fat fucking titties. What the fuck?
I am so annoyed.
Honestly, I'm half inclined to draw that. Grant not fitting into armor.
I've got one from I'm trying to remember the name of the artist, but she did one where I'm trying to put a Crusader helmet on. Oh, it's doing the auto thingamajig. Nothing has changed about my attire. I look the same, like, you know, Outlander look. I'm sorry, Captain. I'm afraid we don't have anything on hand that's a ready fit. But we do have a few that are fairly close. We should be able to make them work with some minor adjustments. Very well. See to it, and have the uniforms delivered directly to the field. Hey!
Oh, you haven't gotten it on yet.
Xerix. I shall take this opportunity to brief you on the mission.
Briefs? You can't wear briefs. Your dick too big.
I can wear briefs.
Too big.
No,
Ass too fat.
I can fit in them. How do you think I fit into these?
I don't see you wearing anything.
No, you're lying. As mentioned earlier, we will deploy Amaro to scatter dream powder from the sky. Once the oh, damn it, fuck, misclicked. I assume we're part of the said unit. Correct. The unit will be divided into two contingencies, one deployed from Fort Job and the other from the Ostel Imperative. You and Alphino will join the former. Grant, meanwhile, will join the latter with me. So when they say the former, they mean like the first one, and then the latter is like the last one they mentioned, right?
Correct.
Radio. Before you proceed to your positions, you are to report to Chesamil at Spaghetti. She will issue you with a serum to ward off the effects of dream powder. We shall be on our way then. Take care, my friend, and we will see you on the field. It's quite...
Oh my god, there's this... Oh, sorry.
It's quite far to the Imperative, so you may make use of an Amaro from the Rookery, after you've collected the serum, of course.
There's an NPC where I'm at called Shushu Tabby. and my fucking like minor dyslexia just decided to roll and say, "Shut up, baby."
Well. Alright, so I need to now go to the Spaghetti Town. Why is this place so big?
Zeebs is a cutie.
Absolutely incorrect, Furry Cures. I am not a cutie. Besides, Wes was up for 12 hours and you were up, so I chose you. Ah, well, thank you. Ah, wait. Which way is Spaghetti? Oh, I gotta go outside and then back in. Meanwhile, Davy Boy is figuring out their best attire. Yeah, the Peloton! Cheese. Yes, sweet. Oh my god, she's speaking like an old lady. Yes, sweetie. Is there something you need? Oh, one of the guards came for your dram, are you? Here you go. A dose of this will keep you firmly in the waking world while your enemies are off in dreamland. Now, if this is your first time, I should warn you, it's bitter as sin. Prince's kiss, they call it. But if you ask me, it should be Crone's kiss. Just...
You see, this draft shall keep you awake in as long as you need, keeping you far from the effects of sleep powder. It's called 3,4-methylene dioxymethamphetamine.
That's MDMA.
I know what it is. I know what methamphetamine is.
No, it's MDMA, not methamphetamine. It's different.
Oh, god damn it. Just aside, the stuff really is foul. Most people gag like there's no tomorrow, but if you don't drain every last drop, you're liable to end up taking a trip to Dreamland yourself. So I must ask you to drink it here and now while I watch. Come on, give the old crone a kiss.
Considering the smell and the waking factor, it's probably like a liquid form of ammonia.
Probably. Well done, sweetie. I'm proud of you. Why, if I don't know you any better, I'd say you enjoyed it. Now you needn't fear falling asleep on the battlefield. Just have care you don't lose any limbs out there, alright? They don't tend to grow back.
Yeah, but you can get robot ones, which are just as cool. And they can have guns in them.
Can that happen in the Final Fantasy universe? I thought that was only a cyberpunk
Theoretically.
thing.
Theoretically they can, considering Aether shit. And you've got like an Aether gun on you right now.
Yeah, but that's a gun. That's not like a... That's not like legs and
totally
shit.
Put that on your arm.
Wait, I'm this way. Sesam Genma. I require a rookery thing. Okay, Barrett doesn't have robot legs. He has a robot arm, which is just quite simply a Gatling gun, where his, like, from below the elbow towards his hand. Like, that's different. A leg with, like, a joint and things is a much more difficult thing. We haven't exactly cracked the code on augmentation in that fashion. As much as I'd like to oblige, all our mounts are reserved for the upcoming operation. I fear you'll have to go by foot. But wait, there might be another way, assuming you are willing to lend a hand. Deep gold headgear. Hey, we got ourselves an Aether Current. I was about to deliver an Amaro to Redediska's Round, one of the locations whence the beasts will fly for the operation. The tower lies along the route to the Imperative. If near enough is good enough for you, you may make the delivery in my stead. Very good. I shall ready the Amaro for departure at once. Augmentation like that is canon in Final Fantasy XIV, but you currently can't give examples beyond Fordola and the Green Lad in Stormblood. What green
Oh,
lad?
the green lad. I forgot about the green lad.
What? I honestly have forgotten. Who is the green lad in Stormblood?
He was part of the Blue Boys in ARR. Yeah, the post game.
Oh,
And he got wheelchaired.
No, I don't remember this now.
Hold on.
Sounds all weirdy.
What's his fucking face? Aaron Vold.
Aaron Vold.
He doesn't get legs, but you know he's alive.
Aaron Vold Lentinus. Learned that he possesses.
Wait, Grindvault has fucking shits on him?
What? Okay, hang on.
I'm talking about the entirely wrong guy. I'm talking about this guy's the shield guy from
the ginger Rogadin.
the Rat Man, the fucking asshole.
Like, hang on. Wait, he's got augmentations? I thought he was just in an Iron Man suit.
Oh yeah, he does get hypertuned at the end. Which is effectively the same thing.
Hypertuned. What's hypertuned? Just that he has all his ligaments replaced?
Yeah, he gets actually no, to be honest, but like it'd be funny if he went the entire fucking edge runner route. What's his face called? David Martinez.
Yeah, Ramirez.
Martinez, but yeah.
Is it? I thought it was Ramirez. Oh no, Ramirez is the Call of Duty character where they're like, Ramirez, get onto the roof of the Burger King. Ramirez, get the fuck out of there! Nuge from Final Fantasy X is a prosthetic arm and leg, but also uses a cane. Radio. Alright, so the point is, even in a fantasy realm, we're going to do like prosthetic legs and arms. Noted. I just didn't know we had like that level of detail with our prosthetic legs and arms. Radiska's round is to the north and west. You can take the road or you can fly. It is up to you. Upon arriving, make yourself known to the sentry and she will give you further instruction. If you should become separated from the Amaro, don't worry. The beasts are trained to return to the rookery. That is all. Go well.
I'll be honest.
They fly.
As soon as humans get like neural interfaces for fucking prosthetics, I'm chopping off my fucking left arm and I'm getting a robo arm.
It will be expensive as fuck. I will be real with you. But I feel like we will have so many like hackery nonsense, like someone just deciding to play whatever kind of ASMR nonsense to neuro thingy-madoogs. Let's wait until yeah. Don't let Elon Musk be the dude.
Like I wouldn't trust Elon Musk with a fucking penny.
Nah. I wouldn't trust Elon Musk with reinventing the wheel.
You know what? That's a good one. I'll agree with that.
I thought it was a good one. I'm just like flying to different places because it's like I now have the opportunity to like fill out this map without like much repercussion. Oh, actually, what am I? Oh, to the northwest. So that's like. Lol, I'm about to have a collision course in the sky. The FAA isn't with us. Oh, I'm going faster than him. How is that possible? That doesn't make sense. Hang on. Wait, hang on. We need to like make a line. Oh my gosh. This is so alright. Just need to move. Alrighty, here we go. Alright, and then alright, so we're gonna go north. And we gotta stop off here. Wait, is there a... Oh, it has to be 5 seconds. Alright. possibly have that big of a lead. Okay, the gap's not getting wider, so I think it is actually the same speed. It was just a case of... It's just a case of, ping being an issue of who got here first. I'm afraid that's been a change of plans. We already have all the beasts we require here. Instead, this one is to go to the Imperative to the west. Please use it to see to it the handler on duty. Seizle Venethu. If you encounter trouble along the path, return here and I'll set you otherwise. Alrighty, and then... Oh, 200. Okay, so this is really close. Should be somewhere nearby. $49 to the northwest. Alright, so it's basically here somewhere. There we go. 42 to the north. There it is. Might as well get this, so then that way... The sooner I can do the flying around nonsense in this area, the better. Tuning gives you an understanding of the winds. Nope, wrong thing. This is Lakeland. Yeah, this is Lakeland. Alright, so the only things left are missions now. Say, I don't believe I know you. Did you join the Guard recently? Ha, so that is the way of it. Well, you managed to arrive. That's all that matters in the end. I bid you welcome to the Ostel Imperative, one of our key strongholds in Lakeland. The first thing you'll want to do is report to the captain. You'll find her at the lookout across the way.
Go suck a lemon.
You go suck a lemon, furry cures. But yeah. I'm really annoyed with how some people interpret, like, the good of, like, a person or a company. Like, everyone's, you know, getting annoyed with Elon Musk, as they should, but we don't have enough people, like, understanding, like, just how sneaky Steam is with their shit. So it seems that rather than the Amaro delivering you, you delivered the Amaro. I'll not thank you. I expect all my soldiers to make themselves useful. Speaking of which, I have a task for you. Oh, I can hang on a second. Replace it with... Alright, so that's the level 70 item, which is 370. The white gold is 380. Alright, cool. Yep. So the... hang on a second. I need to... Yep, so 395. And then change it from deep gold claymore to the deep gold... Great. Huh. Small difference there. That's the Dark Knight gear. So that's the warrior. And there's my gunbreaker again.
More like bunbreaker.
I'm not giving you that one.
It's funny because you're a bun. And also your character has a big penis.
I need to figure out what to do with those fucking things. Sort this inventory. Got a lot of things I need to figure out. Alright, what is the job? A helm, a tabard, gauntlets, and some... Oh, okay, this is definitely going to go in the glamour chest when I'm done. In readiness for the operation, the Amaro will need to be treated with the same serum as us. As you well know, however, it is not pleasant. In order to coax them into taking it, we have sprinkled it on their fodder. All that remains is to feed it to them, a task I am sure you will enjoy. Fetch the fodder from the Amaro. Launch and see to 4 of the beasts. Dismissed. Oh, look at you two, having the exact same fucking, like, spirit wolf. There's not a good alternative sometimes, especially with Epic Games making games exclusive to their store only for PC. I don't have an issue with Epic Games making their games exclusive, because here's the thing. It doesn't cost you money to use the Epic Games Store. It doesn't cost you money to use Steam, Origin, Uplay, or the only things that cost money is the Xbox Game Pass and any of the games within all of these different stores. So the perturbed of being, oh, we, like, why use the Epic Games like launcher? It's like, you know, when I have Steam for us, it's like, if you want to break up monopolies, you're going to need to, like, you know, not engage with the monopoly. And some people think that Steam is like a good company because of most recently, some of the stuff they talk about is like, for example, their return policy. Steam before 2016 didn't have a return policy. Steam's return policy in 2015 and prior was tough shit. You don't get a return policy, go home. This did not agree with the Australian government. We actually had like a consumer protection set of rules, and some of them are very, very strong, which is a case of, hey, if you want to sell things to Australians, you have to have a return policy, especially in the case of like any damaged goods, false advertisement, yada yada.
That's why we can't get the index.
I'm very much of the thought as to why that is. They've not spoken as to why that is, because they are saying like at some point they will, but considering the Steam Deck or the Valve Index aren't in Australia, I'm very much of the opinion that Steam got hit with like they were sued by the Australian like the ACCC or something, like, I can't remember the full acronym, but basically Australian government came to Steam and said, look, you've been operating in Australia for the last few years. You have no return policy, and there have been cases where people have had to try and return your games because of, you know, it's not what they advertised. They want to return on a game that was incorrectly purchased, and you've given no avenues for it and have cost us millions. You are going to pay millions to give this back. Steam, you know, had to, you know, take that shit in 2016, and lo and behold, after they paid off all the damages, they released their new policy saying, oh, hey, here's a return policy where it's 2 weeks without question, and if it's anything after 2 weeks, we'll like look at it on a case by case. Everyone praised Steam because it was a policy that went out like in anything that's everywhere Steam was operating. Everyone was like, yay, good for Steam. When in actuality, if there wasn't a government that decided to interrupt on Steam's little fun, Steam would have operated the exact same way they did in 2015, which was no return policy. Because the way companies like to operate on the internet, which is why we had like all the cookies nonsense in everywhere around the world, is because if they wanted to continue operating in the EU, they had to do that. And it's a lot easier having everyone deal with the harshest punishment based off of the country that it's available in, rather than trying to like split up the website via VPN and being like, oh, you're situated in the UK, your cookies have to be managed this way. If you're in the US, we don't give a shit. We're gonna take your birthday and not ask questions.
Not my birthday.
No. I don't understand why Steam doesn't hold on to our birthdays. Every time I go to a web page, one of their web pages, even though I'm signed in, they're like, please give us your birthday. And I'm like, there is something here where they don't want to get fined for, you know, having things shown to people underage. I feel like that's what's happening with why they ask for the birthday every time, is because if they did have a record of keeping track of birthdays, then there's probably like some sort of issue of, oh, here's an early access game that is clearly meant to be not safe for work that you have allowed like adolescents to view or something. Epic in this case have made
Paddy.
Creators violate contracts in which they say backers to them have lost entire they were expecting due to the locking of games on a specific platform. Okay, I've only heard one game do that, and it was like it was a game that was, you know, it was like one of those Indiegogo games, and it was one of those cases, much like how people say Google it, tweet it, I'll check you on Facebook. cookie for Hawaiian pizza. They just used the name Steam Key because it was just the universal language for here is a digital copy of the game. Even if you were playing the game through Origin or playing it through Microsoft Games or Uplay, everyone was always just called it a Steam Key. But when the exclusivity came in, they still got their game on Epic Games. They just had to drop the fact that it wasn't going to be on Steam. And people got really annoyed because they thought a Steam Key? No, not a Steam Key. A Steam Key. So, like, the only valid issues with Epic Games on why they're, you know, not very great in this area is just because of the simple fact that they do not have the catalog that Steam has, and the features that make people stay on Epic Games outside of games is not there. Steam has all sorts of features for people when they're not playing video games. And that's a very weird thing, trying to tell people, hey, you need to create a storefront for people to stay in even if they're not buying games. Because you talk to any brick and mortar shop on, hey, I want you to have them stay here, not playing, like, you know, not buying anything. They're going to be like, why the fuck would I do that if nothing, why the fuck would I do that if I'm not incentivizing them to buy?
That's the reason why there's two whole ass game shops on one street in my city, and they are both great. And they're both very popular.
That's good. All right, I'm doping the Amaros, so then that way they get the whatsamahoozy. What did you call it? The ammonia?
Yeah, the ammonium salts.
Yeah, the ammonium salts. So yeah. It's harder to find new games even though they aggressively seek out exclusivity. I think they have a harder time with indie games than they do, like, big games. Because let's be real. Everyone knows Alan Wake 2 was coming out on Epic Games Store. Like, that's not a very, like, a lot of people who weren't interested in Alan Wake couldn't give a shit on whether it was sold on Steam or Epic Games. And very rarely does any of the marketing does not care about the people that are absolutely interested in buying the game or absolutely not interested in buying the game. All of marketing is in the little middle ground, this little, like, small zone of they don't know yet. And in that little Venn diagram of they don't know yet, they don't give a shit about Steam versus Epic Games normally. They're very much on the fence, or they don't know the thing is a problem. So, yeah. So, and what's more is everyone's like, oh, Epic Games is losing a lot of money, and it's like, they probably want to say that because then that way they don't get charged with a whole shit ton of tax in the US, because it's better for your business to have marginal returns than to have, like, you know, egregious profits. It's why Amazon technically operates on a loss.
Hey, speaking of advertisements in movies, is a new fucking Godzilla thing coming out? What the fuck?
There's a new Godzilla?
There's a new Godzilla thing coming out. Monarch Legacy of the Monsters.
There's...
currently on Apple TV.
Hang on. Godzilla 2014, Shin Godzilla.
It's called Monarch. Oh, it's a fucking series? What the fuck?
Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. Oh, it is a TV show. Oh my god, they have White Russell in there with Kurt Russell. Oh! That's what they were doing!
At the end of the latest movie, like, Goji vs. Kong.
No. So, I heard this on, like, a TikTok, but I didn't know the film or the TV show they were talking about. But Kurt Russell plays as a character, and his son, Wyatt Russell, who also does acting, he's playing the same character, but the younger timeline.
That's smart. I like that.
So it's like if it's like if Will Smith and Jaden Smith played the same character in a movie, just at different points in time.
Honestly, they should have done that with what was that movie that came out a while back where there was two Will Smiths?
Oh, the Gemini Man.
Yeah, they should have done that with Gemini Man. I know it's like
No.
you know,
Because
the whole
it's
thing
because
with it.
Jaden Smith isn't like a bankable name. Will Smith
Yeah.
isn't even a bankable name anymore. It's not like
I still like both of them.
yeah, that's fair. Everyone's just kind of feeling bad for Will Smith because of what's Mahoozies.
Jada.
Her, yes.
She is trifling, to say the least.
It's finally out of the ads. Welcome back, Xerix. Sorry for the advertisements.
Welcome back, Xerix.
The Chris Rock slap. Oh no, this is well after that. It's like this case of like how Jada Smith something or rather talks about oh what's his name? Huge rapper. He's dead though. Tupac. That's it. So Tupac's wife has made it that there's never going to be a memoir. She's never going to distribute insider goss about her and Tupac because the stuff that Tupac wanted to reveal to the public, he revealed to the public. The things between them is just quite simply between them and she does not want to have that kind of shit commodified. Whereas Jada, on the meanwhile, she's absolutely going to use Tupac's name, and it's always to and it's apparently just to try and make a better buck. Make ready and await deployment atop the main watchtower. I'll send you your uniforms along as soon as it arrives. That is all. May smile upon us. Oh, look at yous with your umbrellas. I can do it too. Watch this shit. Oh, you can enable auto umbrella. Interesting. There we go. Look at that. I got my umbrella. Where's your umbrella? Wait, why does Davy Boys have a tongue on his? Oh, Xerix is cool with the
Oh, it's a yokai it's probably from the Yokai Watch event.
Oh, okay. Where's Xerix's from? Because that one, it looks kind of cool with the calamity symbol. It's from the Fan Fest of last year. Ah, I missed that then. I've missed a lot of things. I've missed out on the Final Fantasy 15 questline with the car. That happened like 2 years ago, and I missed out.
No, that happened like this year. Again.
Don't lie to me.
I'm not lying to you.
It did not happen this year.
It happened this year.
I would have known if it happened again. No, it didn't.
It happened this year. I swear.
FF15 questline FF14.
No, not 15. No, yeah, FF15. I was thinking 16.
Yeah, no, 16 happened. 16 happened this year. I kind of didn't care.
Yeah, no, there was a 15 one this year.
Adventurer from Another World. Is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah. Wallahi, it happened. Wallahi.
No, this is the wrong side of Final Fantasy because that's talking about the. Oh my god, where's a nocturne for the heroes?
Who so?
Let's see. Hang on. Final Fantasy event overview from 2019. So yeah, so there was the event in 2019 which had like Noctis's card and shit like that. And then it happened again in 2021. Okay, so a nocturne for heroes. It did not happen in 2023.
It absolutely happened this year. I swear to God. This year or like late last year?
It happened in 2019 and 2021.
Bullshit.
I'm looking at the Wikia.
Don't use Wikia, you fucking fiend.
I'm gonna use internet sources where I can. Items, ingredients, man. Final Fantasy. The Regalia is a participating in the Final Fantasy 14 and 15 limited time collaboration event, a Nocturne for Heroes. Yeah, like. And then there was Forza 3 and Forza 4 appearance. Concept of King Regalia and the Regalia.
What the shit happened in 2021?
It didn't. Look, if it happened in 23, I would be on that shit, okay? That is one of the coolest fucking mounts, okay, in this game. It is so out of place, though, but it's such a great car.
God is my witness, right hand on the Bible. I remember it wasn't that far back.
COVID has fucked up our sense of time. Like, 2021, 2022 has gone by very rapidly because of it. Oh, that's a wrong quest. Where the fuck am I? I'm lost. Oh, I'm supposed to go upstairs. Okay. Nope, that doesn't... Oh, there's stairs there. I missed the stairs. It never happened since the last one. We're getting another FF16 event, though, soon, if it's the car. Yeah, I don't care about FF16. I tried getting into it on stream. It felt like Devil May Cry, but nerfed.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
I should finish it. I only got, like, I'd say 15% in.
Yeah, I only got, like, 15% in. I only just got to the point where he got, like, a new costume. But he had, like, 2 abilities, I think. He had, like, the wind... He had his fire ability, and then he had his wind abilities. But when I... Like, maybe it's just because I was going into it with much higher hopes when everyone was like, oh, it's an entirely different combat system. But, like, it just... Yeah, it felt like a very nerfed-down Devil May Cry. I thought the complexity was going to get ramped up very quickly, like in Devil May Cry, but it just felt like, you know, bing, 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 using... like abilities 1, 2, and 3 within the controller, bing, 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 like.
Well, it gets more complex once you get the devil trigger.
We're talking about 16, right?
Yep.
There's a devil trigger in 16.
Yep. I think it's more accurate to call it the Ifrit trigger, though.
Yeah. Ifrit trigger. I'm gonna need a drink. Zarex is just shaking his head. The operation is about to commence. Stand ready. During the operation, some of your gear will be glamored. Your attributes and abilities will be unaffected. Absolutely love this idea. Unable to... Oh! I think I need a... I don't think I can go into this with a party. Cookie for Oh, Cookie's gone. Sorry, Jason. Cookie. This time I'm for Jason with an actual cookie. 2020 to 2022, most people's times are very distorted. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's been a study into like COVID, and it has actually fucked up people's like sense of chronology.
Keep
then.
moving.
Her eyes are very fucking blue. I do not remember Minfilia, even as the Oracle of Light, having that kind of a blue eye.
What now?
The Crystarium at a guess. Desperate fools. It'll take more than a handful of overgrown lizards to ground us.
I'll just click in when I have the thing to do.
You're gonna be... Sound the alarm!
Alarm! Hey, I'm glamored in the attire, but I wish it was a little more red.
You could probably dye it.
Probably could.
More like
Captain, the
hilarious.
powder has taken effect.
I'm pretty sure I have a lot of reds in my my retainers.
It is time. Let us free the Oracle from their clutches.
Yeah. Oh, I disbanded the party, so it's possible that both you and Zarex are like other areas. Plus, Zarex went to get a drink, I'm pretty sure. Nice. Here we go.
For the Crystarium!
Zoom out just a little bit. Try and keep Alphino safe. You're back. You're just doing some hunts to do a boost to your Sage. Noted. Occupy the enemy while we go and rescue what's-in-the-whoosies. Where is she?
Where are they?
Where is she?
Where is he?
Rachel!
Joker! Rachel! Ophelia!
Ophelia! Oh, I meant to be going this way?
Batman coded NPC in 14, do you think?
What's the name? The Iron Bull or whatever.
Iron?
The one-armed dude.
Oh, yeah. You think he's Batman coded?
I feel like he's Batman coded.
I would have said, yeah, Shadow from the Dark Knight questline.
Oh, that too. Actually, yeah, no, they are very... the two, both Dark Knights that we've gone through are very Batman coded, of different eras for sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure I made the joke.
That's me. I'm the Dark Knight. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
So, yeah. Leave them to the guard. Okay, I'm going the right direction. I just hate how it's like, oh, we could have gone right through the middle. I would have gone right through the middle, and instead, we have to go down the sides. Like, I'm a tank. We can wall-to-wall this. Oh, these guys are idiots. Leaving their healer vulnerable as they are.
Leave this to me! Now! Let's give them a show!
Why is my provoke such a long cooldown? You'd think they'd want it to be very high for the fact of, like, just throwing it to get people's attention.
Because you usually don't use provoke on mob. You use mob boss.
Okay.
Like in a raid, if you're off tanking they hit shirk using provoke and you put tanks on.
Okay.
At least that's
You're
my
not
knowledge.
alone.
I don't raid at all.
No, fair enough. So, I don't do that much raiding either. Like, I do the main quest line and some of the trials they throw at us, but I think other than the Void Arc most recently, I've not done an Alliance raid or anything like that. Like, even when it goes to relic weapons, it's a case of, oh, I'm just gonna be over-leveled for this, so I don't need the full party. Alright, where the F are we going next? Go. Alright, sprinting! Yeah. So, there's something to do. Farm to tell him back and... why do they both have to be magical?
I'll be right back.
Not to worry. Alright, well, Nina's doing well. She's not being a problem. Provoke is mainly for something called tank switching, which you provoke aggro off your co-tank to lessen their damage taken. Noted. You need to do 1 or 2 coils for the blue. I honestly want to do the coils of Bahamut. One of the reasons why I started a guild on Oceania when they first released was so then that way, if there was enough people in the guild because of, you know, interest in the Materia server and people we bumped into who were like, oh, we saw you streaming and we, you know, liked what you were doing in the raids or what have you. Because of, like, those kinds of people, I wanted to try and get the guild together for maybe, like, once I got closer to Endwalker to be like, we're gonna try and go through an unsync of of the coils of Bahamut. Because it pops up so fucking often in my Wondrous Tales, and I have no clue what's happening, so I feel like I gotta, like, at least look into it, but no one plays the coils of Bahamut normally. She is literally a child. Thank you. Are you from the Crystarium? Correct. We've come to rescue you. Your weapons, made to the same specifications as Thancred's. Be ready to use them. Understood. Please lead the way. Alrighty. We'll rejoin the others and quit this place. Oh, I gotta get that shit sorted in less than half an hour. Save your apologies until we've escaped. Cool. Everyone's sleeping. Wait, am I going the right way? No, I am not going the right way. I was going the wrong way. You'd have to understand the mechanics because I won't be able to use Basic Instinct to get that little edge. Oh yeah, ever since I've moved to the American servers, even if I put on a VPN to help me like shorten the connections, so instead of having like 200 megabytes, 200 milliseconds of ping to like 160, I'm not going to be able to do my Ultra Instinct moments in raids like I did in the past. There were if it wasn't for the fact I didn't want to have to learn so many combos, I feel like I could actually greed bosses if I ever swapped to DPS. Unfortunately, that is definitely not going to happen while I'm in the US data centers while living here in Australia. And the last time I checked in with my family about the whole, hey, what if I move to the States? Both my mom and dad would be very upsetties with me, and they would be very sad. And I was like, well, I'm not going to make you sad by going to the United States when I have no reason to do so just yet. Oh my god, Ramjit is very strong. The fuck is wrong with him? Oh, what the... Is this dragon doing some funky shit? Stay there while I tend to these vermin. Oh my god. Cannot maintain this onslaught. Be prepared to run. Oh, so we're just gonna run away from this dude. That's not great.
Be gone!
I'm so used to high ping on the US that I adapted to it a bit. Like, I bet after a while I will adapt to it and such, because there are moments when I do the slide casting, I think it's called, where it's like, oh, even though the thing doesn't look like it's finished loading, it's like I do the cast like I do the ability. Cookie for Jason. Oop, and oh, I'm about to fucking die, aren't I?
Oh, this is...
Thank you, Jason, for being my biggest fan. You were already my biggest fan, but you're an even bigger fan now. Did I press that at the right time? Jesus. Come on. Alright, use camouflage to try and keep them. Alright, donk, and then sprint. There we go. Oh, didn't get out of the burns in time. So, didn't time that right. How am I still alive? Jesus. Seems you are no ordinary warrior. No, I am the warrior of light. I am going to survive this nonsense. Still not doing the timing correctly.
Why do you persist in this folly?
Why do you persist? Oh, God. No, you bastard. And I don't have my arm's length back yet. Am I even doing damage at this point? It's hard to say. I have your measure now. The game is up. Oh my God.
It's over!
Oh. Just doesn't a giant fucking, like, lightning bolt from the sky. Aurora yourself. There you go. Sometimes I forget my buttons. That's why it has to be on the bar, so I can just click it with my mouse. Gunbreaker and Warrior are pretty good self-sustain. You'd say more so. I like the Warrior because I feel like it's within the 1-2-3 combo that he does the healing, and it's on the second hit that they start doing healing as well.
You boy, you bear a striking resemblance to the artist my master seeks.
Always on task, aren't you, Radjit?
By all means, keep your counsel. You will all have ample time to confess your crimes back in Yulmore.
I half expect a Stydian to jump out of somewhere. Either a Stydian or Thancred. It's gonna be one of those two peeps. Oh, I wonder who this is. Oh my God, it's Thancred! Hey, he's Gunbreaker now.
Thancred?
Geriatric man has hands. Did you know?
Geriatric.
So,
he can throw down with hands.
Stole her from us.
All right. Here.
And what if I am?
I love how we're all just like on like kneeling right now. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. There is no martial art that can best gun. I fucking hate fantasies, like especially like Eastern fantasies that are like, you know, the way of the water is faster than the way of the gun. No, it fucking ain't.
Vermin such as you are not worthy of the Oracle.
Monk Chad can kill gun. Apparently so. Fucking D&D rules where it's like...
There's only one, what do you call it, that can beat gun, and that is Hokuto Shinken. Hokuto Shinken.
I barely heard you on that one. Sorry, say that again.
I won't, because my dad's calling me up here.
Alrighty then. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. From little things, big things grow. Oh my god, is he gonna fucking jump? You are a ballsy man.
Don't make me send you to Jesus myself.
This man is ballsy as fuck, right? Also, hi there, Tibitha Fox. Welcome to the stream. It's your first time coming here. I love how you wrote, bringing the shadow, totally fine. And then right afterwards, wet dream. He was going to use the move Thunderclap, which is NHJ. I thought he, like, have you guys seen Dragon Ball Z? Or not Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball. There was like this martial arts expert. Like, this was like back during the, welcome back. Do you remember the anime Dragon Ball? Not Dragon Ball Z, back when Goku was just a kid and he was dealing with the Red Ribbon Army. Mm-hmm. And there was a martial artist and he did this thing where he
took the pillar and he threw it.
Yeah, he took a pillar, threw it, and jumped on the pillar. I thought Ranjit was gonna do that.
That would be so sick.
It would have been so. No, it's not Yamcha. What's the name of the fucking
Alpai.
Sorry?
Alpai is his name.
Alpai.
No, Tao. T-A-O.
T-A-I-P-A-I. P-A-I. Yeah, this guy. Mercenary Tao. Oh my god, it almost looks like him, except just... like, hang on a second, let me just grab this image, just so you can... Oh my god. There's clearly some inspiration here. Give me a moment, I need to share this on stream for you. Hang on, where's...
It's Mercenary Tao from Crane School. I thought that was just Tien and Chaozu.
Oh, he's from the same school as them? Huh, didn't know. Okay, so...
I'm not sure he is.
This guy. Look at him, chat. Look at this dude. Like, the Final Fantasy just looks like the heavier metal version of Mercenary Tao. And what ends up happening is this guy, he's fighting Goku after like one of his recent like power-ups for some reason, and he's losing, and I don't know why, but he had a grenade, I think. So he like pulls the grenade pin out with his teeth, which by the by, you would lose your teeth when you do that. There's a lot of force in there. Throws it, but then he kicks the grenade back and gets the holy hand grenade. I don't know if it's the holy hand grenade. It's just a grenade. He's part of the Crane School. He trained Tien when he was younger. Nice. To the movies. Master Shen from Crane School was founded by Master Shen. His brother is Mercenary Tao. The two students in Crane School are Tien Shinhan and Chiaotzu. Why do we give a shit about Chiaotzu? But yeah, I just couldn't help but think of that man. when he was ready to jump and shit. Alright, delete this image. You erased one memory about him and found it again.
I would sooner see it razed than conquered. Suffice it to say, we are ready to receive you.
Nice.
What now, Exarch? Will you face me yourself?
I don't know if he's gonna do that. Oh. Did he just use like a super condensed aether crystal?
General. I've quite exhausted my tricks. If you mean to give chase, I will not stand in your way.
Tau killed it. Oh yeah, no, he knocked out General Blue or someone. It was mentioned in the Wikia.
But you would do well to tread warily, for your quarry goes to a place where even Yulmore dare not bear its steel. Ilmeg, the Fairy Kingdom.
Oh. Hang on, let me look up Raw Jet. FF14. Or Ronjet.
To think that mountain of indolence still had the energy to unleash his hounds.
It's the fucking bitch boy, the
sexy man.
The emperor. Like what's a Mahusi dude?
Pointless of conflicts may alter a world's course.
It's my favorite Tumblr sexy man.
And now the plan has gone awry.
I've actually seen this face before Shadowbringers and such. Because Final Fantasy shit posters will sometimes use it. There was this artist that did the...
I wouldn't say shit post, but I would spoil you by doing so.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Tumblr sexy man. There was an artist that did the 3 gym leaders from Pokemon Go. I can't remember the name of the artist, but they also did some Final Fantasy 14s, and like their art was where I first saw the Dark Knight, the one with like the full plate stuff. So they weren't the reason why I started playing Final Fantasy 14. I'll be real with you. I started playing Final Fantasy 14 because of JCAT and their crap guide.
I'll be right back.
Not to worry. You have a very cursed sketch of him, Xenos, and Asahi. If it's not spoilery, I will be curious. We have an art channel.
Mayhap there is another way. One which does not require bloodshed.
Oh, damn, I need to go to the bathroom, I think. Alright, once this cutscene is out, I am going to need to do a 3-minute break so I can... The whole point of me doing 3-minute break an hour was so then that way it gave me an opportunity to drink water and go to the bathroom. I have not been utilizing that break.
Here in the shadow of
I am in this
ranges,
fucking weird zone where it's like I can't sync my bathroom to the advertisement.
A nation with a proud history that the Sin Eaters cut short, just like all the rest.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Since that time, these lands have become a haven for Fey folk.
I don't know what you were just saying there, Cap.
Dreamers frolicking amidst the ruins of a forgotten realm.
This place is filled with fucking pollen. Whoever has like...
This isn't Black Secret Great Wood, never mind. I was wrong.
Ilmeg.
It's Ilmeg, no.
It's just surrounded by pollen, though. Whoever has allergies from the seasons is just gonna be fucked up in this city.
We should be safe enough here.
Tell me when you get to Rectic though, so I can do a cover of it.
Noted. Noted, noted.
It's good to see you again, my friends. I don't know about you, but it feels like years since last we met. 5 of them in my case.
Oh yeah, the time dilation nonsense between the source and the first.
To me, but long enough to warrant a more convivial reunion either way.
The source and the forced.
The source and the first.
Loft.
I don't know what I said.
Alright. Oh, apparently this is Tabitha's favorite zone.
She and I were traveling together, hunting Sin Eaters. But as we were nearing Lakeland, she abruptly ran off on her own.
Oh.
I found her too late to stop the Ulmorans from taking her prisoner. And as I was considering rescue options, I observed that the Crystarium was on the move.
Jesus, Thancred was thinking of doing that on
So
his
I consulted the Exarch, who apprised me of the details of the operation and issued me certain instructions. Should the situation take a turn for the worse, I was to see you all safely to Ilmeg. And here we are.
Orianger has called this place home for a while now. Yet we have never called upon him, I am ashamed to say. 'Twas only at the Crystarium that we met.
Hardly surprising. This is not the sort of place one visits on a whim. Happily, having trespassed on Orianger's hospitality for a spell, Minfilia and I have an idea of how things work around here. Sooner or later, the Ulmorans will come after us. But before they do, the Exarch bids us accomplish two things.
What are the two things?
First, rendezvous with Orianger.
Oh yeah, he had a mental
And
breakdown
second,
in the previous patch.
Eliminate the Light Warden of this land.
Is that a breakdown?
When their brains are just sort of like, someone's calling to me, and then they end up in the first.
What made you leave Thancred behind, if you don't mind me asking?
Is this going to be a twist where, like, for some reason this Minfilia is going to have memories?
No, that'd be a
You.
fucking cop-out, wouldn't it?
The hero from another world.
Huh?
I was asleep when I felt it. A presence. Someone I was meant to meet. They were close and I knew I had to go to them. But with all the commotion in Lakeland, I was afraid that Thancred wouldn't let me.
And would I have been wrong? Had I arrived a moment later, you would be back in your cell in Yulmore. And now we have Ranjit snapping at our heels. You really have outdone yourself this time.
Calm down, Thancred. Jesus.
I'm sorry. Thank you for saving me.
He's an overprotective dad.
He is a very overprotective dad.
Oh, poor
Makes sense when his daughter is reincarnated GF.
Oh my god, there's a Scottish accent in the game.
Poor thing.
Who said that?
Come now, put away that frown and have some fun with us.
Okay, if you're gonna still be in the chat when I have to talk with the fairies, you're gonna do the voice for the fairies.
Alright, I can't actually read it because I'm blocking it, and also...
I'm streaming it in the Discord.
Which way was it to Orianger's?
Don't worry, we're not there yet.
Here we go.
I've been there so many times, but I can't. Why can't I remember?
Damn it all. We're already caught in their spell.
They're doing some funky nonsense, aren't they?
They're doing some funky fey magic.
Funky fey magic. Alright, I need to go to the bathroom. So, sorry for people who didn't want to deal with 3-minute advertisements once per hour, but I'm going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to push off a 2-minute advertisement so I can go to the bathroom, I'm sorry to say. Cap, keep them occupied.
Hi. Hello, chat. I'm your new mummy. Yeah. I'm your new mummy. How do you feel about that? You see, I got this accent because Grant's had me doing a wee accent for these fairies. Spoiler alert, I love the fairies. I love them to death. So good. So good, chat. So good. Now then, why the wee man's pissing his fucking massive zebra cock? How about we have an AMA? What do you wish to ask me? Be it about this schmuck or any other schmuck I know, or even about me. Did you know, gamers? Did you know you can milk a zebra? It's quite an intensive process. They do come. They do come. It's because I'm Limmy. I'm just joking. I'm not. I'm not Limmy. It'd be cool if I was Limmy, but I'm no Limmy. Hello, Limmy. It's like that Rose Tyler, what she said. Air from outer space. Why you sound like air from the north? What's a planet our north? You floating piece yourself. I may have pieced myself one time, but that was just that. My bladder was full. You could see my tummy out my shirt. It was that big, and I pieced my entire load, and I came as well because it was hot. Don't be so rude. Don't be so rude to my favorite. How dare ya? How dare you say that to my wee man? To my wee man, Papi Limo. How dare ya? He was a warrior. Well, not quite a warrior alike, but he was a damn good sign of the seventh dawn. You fucking wanker. Get the fuck out of me chat, ya wee man. Get out. Don't actually get out. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm taking care of this stream. And if I get shit on for it, it's on you. I swear to God, I'll kill ya. I'll fucking wreck your shit so hard. Oh, it'll be something else. I'll tell you that. Anyways, I think he's coming back. Be calm. Be calm. If you snitch on me, I'm fucking killing all of ya. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I want to see Art of the Sexy Man. What do you think I am? Some sort of fucking...
Are you threatening my chat?
I may or may not be. I cannot deny it.
Are you threatening my chat?
I may or may not be. It was the fairies, okay? It was the fairies.
What is it now? Oh, can I sit in the passenger seat? No, I cannot. Alright. Talk to Thancred. And grab all this shit. Tabitha says they were being bullied. Oh, and something is in the art chat.
I do not like that art.
Okay, so the dude on the left looks like something from Dr. Seuss. I don't know the art style in the middle. Meanwhile, the guy on the right, that's just Brian from Family Guy.
Yeah, it's a Sashi Brian. Or is it Sahi? I forgot his name. Can't hate him.
Thancred is trying to think his way out of the present predicament. As it stands, we cannot hope to find the way to Urianger. For that, we must convince the pixies to lift the spell. From what I could make of the voices, the creatures want to play with us. If that is the case, they should permit us to find their village. Ladiran. Come, I have a sneaking suspicion this path will lead us directly into their midst. Oh, and I should mention that Minfilia has been informed of our situation, of the different worlds and our mission. You may consider her an ally. Oh, cool. So you've been indoctrinating Minfilia into the, the scions of the Seventh Dawn. They're all Tumblr sexy men, but as Tumblr... Oh, I need to show you something. Hang on. I need to get you an image. There is an image. I can't believe this image fucking exists, and it's just so funny. Oh no, there's a divergence. Alright, hang on a second. I got the image. Alright, give me a second. Because when you said Tumblr sexy man, it reminded me of Sans, and I know there was this image. Here it is.
That's good.
It's like the Avatar state. Loki seeing sounds explaining like whatever the fuck it is they're doing, followed by the Onceler.
Sans, Onceler, Dave Strider. I think that's Germany from Italia. The 10th Doctor. I don't know who that guy is, or that guy.
Let me just zoom in just a little bit. So.
Look at those last two schmucks.
I don't know. But yeah, that's from the Tumblr sexy man image gallery from Know Your Meme.
Excellent.
Oh my god, it's just so silly. Oh my god. Hang on, I just need to give an egg to someone. Alright. Handsome Squidward isn't on there. Just assume Handsome Squidward is somewhere down the sexy man cycle, okay? So... Oh my god. Okay, so the people that are noted in a meme are... Oh my god, there's so fucking many! There's gonna need to be a list of names at some point. Was the prototype for future Tumblr sexy man moving forward. The Onceler fandom peaked in 2012-2013. Wheatley from Portal 2 has been considered as the first Tumblr sexy man, as he debuted before the Onceler, and a similar fandom developed around him, though the case for Wheatley is generally considered not as strong as that for Onceler, as the fandom for Wheatley wasn't as big and Wheatley is not a human. Oh, joy. The argument for what could be a sexy man, they need to at least be human. Feels...
That's bullshit. I've seen very inhuman Tumblr sexy men.
There needs to... I just wish there was like a list. There should just be a list of names. I don't want like images to a meme or something like that. Oh wait, hang on. I gotta bring out my littlest boy, my bestest boy. This boy. Is he not the Oh, hang on. There's a. Oh, it's a summoning stone. It bears a striking resemblance to an Amaro. Nice. I know some people have told me that the SDS Fenrir is the quote-unquote, like, pay-to-win mount. I don't care. The Mega Shiba is the best mount. Throwing out Aether Piss from the hand. Just put Wheatley's head on a generic buff-looking companion bot. Oh, what are you saying? Well, here we are, yet the Pixies are nowhere to be seen. Knowing them, their games have already begun. In which case, Grant, there is a variety of plant native to these parts with a distinctive furrowed tip. Looking grass, it is called. So called because it can be goddammit. If a voice calls to you, under no circumstances should you respond. You will only subject yourself to further mischief. Oh, that's a cool cube. I know there's some mounts from, like, PvP shit that I want to get as well. But it's like, how the fuck will I find the time to do that? its base movement speed is faster. Yeah, because it instantly gives you like 1 star of speed.
I got this.
Greetings, what is your name?
I forgot.
Oh, you don't have a name. How very, very sad. I could have so much fun with it.
Icy is cute, Uwu.
I forgot to ask you to do that, and I clicked too quickly. All right, so I need to find another bush. So we're looking for... All right, so here's another phase shrub here. Here we go. You search the shrub, but find nothing resembling looking grass. Suddenly, a voice rings out.
What is it you seek, child? Perhaps I can help you find it. Such a rude child, and too clever by half. I shall seek my fun elsewhere.
Nice. Hi, welcome back, Sashara. I'm not hanging out with the cool fairies yet, but that's why Cap is voicing them.
Not quite yet. Not quite yet. Soon, soon.
I have to look for something called looking grass. Cookie for Jason.
Oh, a visitor! Where are you from, pray tell? Perhaps this one is hard of hearing.
I just heard your mic like trying so hard to pick up on the very high tone and just absolutely fail on that.
Do you want me to try again?
Nah, you're good. You're good.
Stone deaf. How boring.
I kind of wish you'd said, leave me alone!
Leave me alone!
Still, picking plants around our village is as good as indulging us in our hospitality. And who are we to turn you away? Stay a while. Stay forever.
Your body begins to feel heavy. Oh my... Oh, we finally found looking grass though, so... Fey magic has taken a hold, and your will is not entirely your own. Oh, Jesus. Thancred. I take it you met with some trouble. Apologies for subjecting you for that. Can I assume from your presence that you managed to find us some looking grass? Yes. Here you go. Wait, are the fairies gonna look like penguins?
That'll be for you to see. That'd be cool.
Because, like, there's a penguin right there.
Like, I think that's, like, one of those, like, you know those shits in Animal Crossing that make the noises?
I don't play Animal Crossing. Yes, this is the stuff. Thus armed, we should be able to see through the pixie's veil of invisibility, and seeing them is the first step to dealing with them. Come, let's gather everyone and put Urianger's little trick to good use. But yeah, I know how much you wanted me to be like, leave me alone! Because then there would just be the dung, ah, dung, ah. Oh, it's like kids' binoculars.
It's so sparkly, Liman.
Oh, shiny. Oh, look at that! Look at the fairy. All
Parasitha, Krakleath.
What?
It is kind of Gaelic in a way. It's got like that Gaelic sort of tongue work.
It does have that sort of, because I feel like it's a bit of a like a whip motion to it.
Oh, we are found! How did this mortal know our trick?
Wait, I recognize their souls. These two have been here before.
It definitely feels like something from
adorable.
the Isles.
Oh,
Play with us.
We have neither the time nor inclination to play. We have come to see Urianger.
oh yes, Urianger, the peculiar one.
I imagine Urianger would not be liking this place.
He agreed to a riddle contest with us for 7 days and 7 nights without any sleep.
And he won. He's a peculiar like that one.
Oh, that was so much fun! We must do it again!
I could not imagine staying up for 7 days or 7 nights.
I'm sure he'd be delighted.
Urianger is
now, if you'd be so kind as to lift your
Is it
spell.
just because he's like one of those like, it's like the elf race in D&D where it's like, oh, technically you don't need to sleep. You just like somehow like meditate for 30 minutes and you're fucking gold.
No, I just think he's like chronically insane.
Oh, okay. He's just too wired for books.
Should we? Would we?
What now?
That man is on 3,4 methylene dioxide methamphetamine.
You love
MDMA.
you
He's on
love your
MDMA.
chemical line, don't you?
It's good. When MF Doom put that shit in his rap, that shit went so hard.
Ooh.
One for the money, 2 for the better green.
Davey just gave us a fun fact. Fun fact, all the Fae are non-binary, so they go by they, them.
That is true.
That's pretty clever. Honestly, Japan, like, some of their artists just fucking brilliant with their allyship and representation within LGBTQIA+. Because Oda created Yamato.
Hey. Don't forget Ivan Kov. They are my favorite.
Oh, no, okay. All right. Critical question. Would you consider Ivankov trans or drag?
Trans.
Really?
Yeah, they genuinely just don't fuck with gender.
Because I'm trying to remember.
I don't care about any labels or anything. People can call me whatever they like. They can even call me Dookie.
Don't call me.
Never call me Dookie.
I've seen. Is that an official like English?
That's
dub?
the dub.
That's the dub. That's the official dub.
That's the dub.
Oh my god. Okay. God, it's been so long since I read Impel Down.
It's such a good.
How long ago was Impel Down?
Zeebs is a cutie.
Oh, like 10 years at least. 20 probably.
No.
Nah, 10. Definitely 10.
Oh my god, Impel Down was from 2008 to 2009 in the manga. Like, hang on. Let me move further down to when, because there's the different levels of hell, and Ivankov. Hang on a second. Emperor Ivankov. Their first appearance was chapter 537. March 30th. March 30th, 2009.
Also, to dispute Tabitha's entire deal, Tabitha, you do know that Ivan was modeled off of Freddie Mercury, right?
No. They're wait. Look, Ivanov looks very much like from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like there could
I think that and Freddie Mercury.
Alright, give me a second. I want to see if there's. Let's see. Is it quick reference? A new level is okay. Back to, and then where is reference?
Okay, yeah, no, it's definitely like Frankenfurter though.
In
like,
One Piece.
The drip's the same.
Realistic looking face. He was much thinner, longer face. Oh, that was the earlier concepts.
Oh, for the Pixies. Oh yeah, for the Pixies definitely. Also, looking good.
They were just designed to be gendered. Oh, okay. I thought you were. Here we were, like just doing the ADHD thing of just jumping to an entirely different character. In this case, Ivankov from One Piece, and we're just sort of like, what do you mean it doesn't go deeper than that?
Do you think if Ivan gave you the maximum testosterone hormone, you just get big fucking bara boobies?
I don't know. I would be curious on two things. how I would look IRL with the in Oda's manga style, and how my zebra would look in Oda's style as well, because there's the Zoan type fruits. Actually, is there a zebra Zoan?
Let me check.
I don't think there is.
It would be the probably horse fruit model. Zebra, and yes, there is.
Mino Zebra, one of the 5 jailer beasts of Impel Down, an awakened Zoan devil fruit. Interesting. They're awakened. Stuck in his Zoan form is a large bipedal zebra with a human abdomen and pants. He has a runny nose and large lips like every other jailer beast. Also, he has long, elegant hair, unlike the others. Has bored-looking eyes instead of cutesy ones. He wields a long, spiked ball mace. Nice. And as of yet mentioned devil fruit that allows him to become a zebra because he is an awakened Zoe. He's able to recover rapidly even after suffering high amounts of damage. However, his awakened is also a failure, and he has succumbed fully into an animalistic mindset. Oh, that's a shame.
Who knows? Perhaps the next thing I draw is going to be Grant as a true awakened Zoan.
I don't know. But this is their home, so we must indulge them.
You'd probably hang out with Kaku, because he's a giraffe. Giraffes are awesome.
We've
I
made
love
up our
giraffes.
minds. We will lift our spell on one condition: that you first lend us a helping hand, or 2, or 3. Once you've helped solve all of our troubles, we'll let you see Urion J. Pixie's honor.
Yep. They've mentioned,
I love how
go on.
I love how fucking delinquent they are.
Like Fae of other mythos.
I suggest we split up.
It's like the Moogles back in Heaven's Ward, where we did their chores for their king. And that gives us the chest coffer, but it's useless because we're wearing the post-endgame armor from Stormblood, which is level 400. We're still good. Oh my god, they split
I've seen some pretty fuckable Moogles, so don't be saying shit that you don't want to.
I do not want to see fuckable Moogles. It's weird enough that there are people that are fucking Lalafels. I do not need to know about the fuckable Moogles. Hi, Davy. And then there's Zerix over there. Ooh, I have that horse. Hang on a second. Ding. Ding.
Are we all riding unicorns now?
Oh, actually, this is a unicorn. This one is not a requirement to get like the Whatsamahoozy mount from the A Realm Reborn quest line thing, but okay, yep. Davy's got Nightmare. How about you, QB? Oh, why is this bigger? Also, is your... Oh yeah, those are pants. They're just like really, really pale. I need to get that still, but the drop rate. I actually got this because when I was first going through the Realm Reborn ones, that one took forever. I have a really bad RNG rate. You talk to Dazzy, you talk to Code, my RNG rate is fucking abysmal. I don't know why I'm cursed like this. I want to know...
Speaking of Code, why the fuck ain't he here? I'm surprised.
I think Code is, like, because they're going into Christmas time, they're needing him for like more night shift stuff, I think. So he's
that makes sense.
So we're actually altering our D&D night to Thursdays because of that as well for the next week or two.
I guess you're stuck with me, the full-time worker who has the regular schedule.
I'm a full-time worker with a regular schedule, but I very much appreciate my sleep schedule during the weekday.
Oh, so true.
So yeah, but no, I remember having terrible RNG. The only reason I got this Nightmare was by the time my warrior was like level 80 and I was starting to do these wondrous tales, and one of the earth fronts, because I started getting them in my wondrous tales a lot, one of them decided to drop it, and I was just sort of like, abso-fucking-lutely, and because I was doing solo, it was mine. For those that were not fortunate enough to suffer the OGs. I don't need to have Moogles being fucked in my dreams. Don't think about it, Furry Cures. 9:05. Okay. Yeah, this is technically a town. It shouldn't take forever to like log off and such, because I think we'll also. Does this merchant have different gear for me? Let's see. What's the highest level? 395. Yeah, it looks like it's only 395 in this area. Darn. Alright. I will need to end it here then, because I need to figure shit out for tomorrow with chores and release a schedule and figure out what I'm doing Monday. Back to the chat screen and getting the music running off in the background again. That's gonna be it for what's-a-mahoozies, for MMO night tonight. We're not gonna have MMO night next week. Next Saturday, I will actually be streaming in my morning, 10 a.m. So it should be in my Twitch schedule, so you should see that there in your local time. It's going to be a donation stream. There's going to be incentives, so you're going to be able to get me to draw things poorly, might I add. You're going to get me to be able to do push-ups. There's milestones. Can I recommend a furry friend for raiding? You may, Sashera. Are they going to have like one of those MLG AOL classic names? What was the name of the person from the last one that you recommended me? Hang on. It's going to be in your like list of peeps, I swear. Desiree. You know, I'm going to be real. When you say Desiree, sometimes I thought you were talking about someone named Dez. Or Dazarus. Oh, how did I get to this VTuber? Okay, I'm going to need to keep that. All right, I got to keep to my promise with Shashera. Hang on a second. Duplicate this tab. I don't know how it happened, but I went from like a Tauren VTuber, Vanblood, and I am now to a VTuber named H Paradise, and she's just a big moo. It's amazing, but we're not going for her. We're going to go for Desiree, because Sashera mentioned Desiree. Oh, they're doing some World of Warcraft Oh, I see why. I see exactly why Sashera recommends it. Because I can see her fucking fox form in the bottom right. She says no in all caps. Oh, so is someone stealing your identity then? We're gonna need to raid into them and say that they've stolen Sashera's don't out me like that.
Get her ass. Get her ass, chat.
Get her ass. We're gonna get her ass.
Yeah, that's gonna be the raid phrase. Get her ass.
Get her ass. No, we're probably gonna get auto-modded for that one.
Identity theft is not a joke.
Yes, identity theft is not a joke, Sashera. Theft. I can't spell theft is not a joke, Sashera. Is not a joke. Give us Sashera. And then gun emote again. Alright, that is our raid message. Identity theft is not a joke. Give us Sashera. That's going to be it for tonight. There's no stream tomorrow, but I will get a schedule out. I don't have to work Monday, so it's very tempting to do a morning stream on Monday, especially since I need to go through more Armored Core. Or I'm done with Spider-Man. I need a new franchise, and I'm kind of split between Yakuza or Metal Gear Solid. I will probably have to pull...
Buy you Yakuza, so like, do it, pussy.
Yeah. For everyone, for now though, Thank you, everyone who came along to tonight's stream. I greatly appreciate it. Cap, thank you for keeping me company tonight. Same to you, Davey and Xerix. And without further ado, we're going to go raid into Deseris. Bye for now.
Later, chat.
So yeah, we'll move in like 5 seconds.
Mm.
And then...
Yeah, good stream. Good stream.